Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cinematic Schematic, the official podcast of thecinematropolis.com, your home to thoughtful conversations on film. I'm your host, Caleb Masters, and today, things are going to get barbaric up in here. It's going to get barbaric because you're going to encounter some of the whitest kids you know, plus Laron Chapman. That's right, today we're reviewing Weapons. We're going to start, as we always do, with an icebreaker question before jumping into a spoiler-free review where we'll provide a verdict on the film, and then we'll conclude the show with an in-depth spoiler discussion. Joining me today, he is definitely not the whitest kid I know. He is my co-host and award-winning Oklahoma filmmaker, Laron Chapman. Welcome back, sir.
Thanks for having me. After watching this movie, we will not be looking at, I guess a very popular American soup the same way ever again.
Oh, gosh.
Or certain kitchen utensils that you might use on vegetables.
Have you had any weird dreams with certain objects floating in the sky?
I mean, I've had those before, so they never amount to anything before that. So maybe I should start worrying. I don't know.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's a note. Do not send Laron any type of soup as any type of gift in any circumstance.
No.
You don't want to risk it's
No
the one he
cans of
just
soup
referenced.
for me. I'm good on it. Thank you.
Oh, man. All right, so no cans of soup here. Well, Laron, I'm excited because we have a super awesome, exciting, and I think very fitting panel of guests to round out the table today. First up, she returns to us from deadCenter as a programmer, and she's also the host of Film, Burris. Paris, welcome.
What's up, everyone? Hey, I'm happy to be here.
And Paris, would you say that you've lost a certain affinity for eating utensils watching this movie?
Maybe a little bit, yeah.
I'm never going to look at blank the same way again. Yeah. It's pretty disgusting what happened to that ring. Last but certainly not least, he is the co-founder and the host of the Grind Planet double feature, Brett Grimes. Brett, welcome back.
Thank you. I'm glad I didn't embarrass you so much last time and you had me back.
No, man, I had to do you good. I mean, we talked about The Monkey, which was a fine movie, but I feel like this is a much finer movie, so I had to do you, tip my hand a little bit. But, I thought, well, we've got monkeys, now we've got weapons. What better a person to bring back than Brett Grimes? So, of course, you did great.
Glad you were the first person we thought of for that.
Yes, monkeys and weapons. Get Brett right now.
Listeners, before we get to today's review conversation, I just wanted to note that if you listen to the show on any platform, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, please support us by subscribing on said platform. Again, lots of slow uptick without any promotional push whatsoever. Right now, people are listening to more audio shows on YouTube. That's great. We have a little bit of video on YouTube, but if you want to check it out on audio, you can subscribe on YouTube, or you can leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcast or Spotify. And just a quick little sneak peek about what we got coming down the pipe for you. So we're here today with Weapons, probably the most anticipated horror film of the summer. We're going to we'll be back in 2 weeks. That is Wednesday, August 27th, to wrap up our summer 2025 coverage. We're going to talk about a few of the films that we didn't get to on our main show, as well as providing a letter grade and rating and look back at the summer that was 2025. And then we'll be on a short hiatus ahead of this year's awards season. More announcements to come soon. But that said, let's get to the fun stuff, though. Icebreaker question. So this is Zach Cregger's, writer-director Zach Cregger, famously from Barbarian, a film that kind of blew, I think, fair to say, blew all of us out of the water, or at least, Paris, were you pretty hot on Barbarian?
I liked it a lot, yeah.
And I know, Laron, you and I have spoken at length on the show about Barbarian being an incredible feat of surprising horror.
Yeah.
So
I love going into that one blind. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
What the hell?
It was the best. It was the best. Going to that was one of the best film-going experiences that I wasn't expecting in quite a while. So yeah, we're big fans of Zach Cregger's work on Barbarian. He's back with his sophomore outing, his second film, and this is actually a real test. Was it a fluke, or does this guy got the juice? He can replicate it. So to break the ice, I thought we might just ask the question, what are maybe one or two of your favorite sophomore film outings from a beloved or perhaps infamous filmmaker? Laron Chapman, start us off, sir.
So I know everyone on the podcast expects me to say Wes Craven's Scream 2, but we're not going to go down. That franchise gets a lot of.
That wasn't his second film, was it?
No, I guess the second in the franchise, not second film, but yeah. So for me, two recent ones that come to mind are Ari Aster's Midsommar, after coming off the heels of Hereditary, which I think for sure, like we talk about that film quite a bit, on this podcast. But that was coming off of that, having that be such a success, thinking like, what would his next movie be? Would it be of this caliber? And I feel like over time, I've actually come to love Midsommar, maybe even a little bit more in terms of just a lot more to unpack there. And just a strange beast of a horror film that you have to just sit and let marinate, while you're watching it. He's really good at kind of conjuring just very uncomfortable. Like
he knows how to make you feel uncomfortable.
Knows how to make you feel really shitty. You know what I mean? Like very well. Another one for me recently would have been Parker Finn with Smile 2. Because I think I was someone who advocated for Smile 1 quite a bit. I liked the concept. I thought it remixed a lot of tropes in different genres, but some people were a little cooler on that one. But Smile 2 I felt was such a level up from that one that I think it really took the strong components of that first one and really made a meal of it and shows you how to make a really good sequel, to an already existing thing. And so those are two examples of ones where I like the second film.
Parker Finn is another one, though. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with your point, but I am really curious to see him do a non-Smile movie,
which is true
because he built upon the same
short film that he made before that.
Right.
So he's kind of been remaking
iterating
the same
thing.
And he's just getting better at that one thing. But
and some filmmakers do that. They do the same thing over and over, and they get better. They they rework it and they kind of work it out, put it in new context. So I mean, Smile 2 was pleasantly surprising. Much like the first one, I don't think I love either of them, but they're both better than they should be.
Yeah,
I thought. Yeah. Paris Burris, what are a couple of your picks?
A couple of my picks of ones that I actually really like. I would go with like Lost in Translation, The Matrix.
Yep.
But I also want to mention one that it's more so one that I love to hate.
Yes.
Which is Southland Tales.
Okay.
Anybody who is
wild.
Anybody who is like familiar with Richard Kelly, the director of Donnie Darko, may or may not be aware or have seen his follow-up to Donnie Darko, which was a blank check movie for, all means and purposes, where he just went wild.
Yeah.
Like, if you think Donnie Darko is wild, it's like I went into Southland Tales expecting something Donnie Darko-esque, and I definitely think there are like some things that are similar, but it completely was unexpected. Had no idea that it was going to be one of the craziest films ever. Just I was just talking with some friends the other day about like if I had one chance to erase any movie from my memory and watch it again for the first time, it would be Southland Tales.
Wait,
you know what I mean?
the lead.
Like honestly, like if I could go back and experience what that was like watching that, because I've just never had that kind of experience before where I was just like, so like, what am I watching?
Yeah.
So anyways, that would be one.
Singing
I
and
wanted
dancing
to...
out of nowhere.
I mean, you've got Justin Timberlake, you've got Sarah Michelle Gellar, you've got Dwayne The Rock Johnson, you've got, I mean, anything and everything. Like, it's maximalist filmmaking with like a blank check of just the same weirdo who brought you Donnie Darko. Like, if you give Richard Kelly like the ability to just do anything he wants, that's what he did, and it's highly entertaining. Yeah.
I mean, you gotta love the guy for taking a swing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're like, blank check here. You're wildly successful. Go with Donnie Darko. Go make whatever you want, and this is whatever you wanted.
Yeah.
I gotta respect. Brett Grimes, what are a couple of your picks here?
All right. Those were all great picks, by the way. Being a genre film guy, that's the direction I took. So we'll go way back. James Cameron, his second film, The Terminator.
That's right.
Pretty killer. I mean, just so influential, top to bottom. One of my favorites.
Also, kind of forgot until I watched it, the Grind Plant last year. I forget how much like just a chase serial killer movie it basically is.
It's like a slasher.
Yeah.
Yep. And then our more recent one, Brandon Cronenberg, his second movie was Possessor.
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
Yeah.
I didn't see Antiviral, his first one, but Possessor's.
I think Possessor put him on the map for certain.
For sure.
Very unexpected. I didn't like what was the he did. What was the one he did after Possessor that we saw last year?
Infinity Pool.
Infinity Pool.
Yeah, not a fan
what
of
was
that.
that?
Not as strong.
Not as big a fan.
Love
of that
you,
one.
Mia Goth, but
Oh, yeah.
she couldn't save that movie for me.
Yeah, yeah.
She was in a different movie than everyone else, I think.
For sure.
Yeah.
She
man.
often is.
Yeah. Well, which is why she's gonna. Oh gosh,
Frankenstein.
Yeah, she's in Frankenstein. I'm really curious about how that's gonna go. I mean, I'm excited. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
All the people in Frankenstein. I'm gonna go for a redemption. It's not like these are popular directors, but I had to go for a redemption on this one, and that is David Fincher making Seven.
Oh yeah.
It's his second movie?
It was his second movie.
Okay, so Cameron and Fincher were just iconic from the beginning. They just made iconic movies that
Right.
stand the test of time.
Yes, Laron,
Right out the gate.
100%. But
Okay.
the important detail to note that's maybe a little different about David Fincher is, do you recall what his first film was? Okay.
I should know this.
Yeah. Okay. So his first film was actually Alien 3, which in retrospect I think has some interesting ideas, but he has since disavowed himself from that movie, and it
How
got
did I not know that?
it got critically panned. Yeah,
The studio just cut it to hell.
yeah, it's but that was technically his first credited movie as a director.
That's
was
crazy.
Alien
I
3.
guess because the first one I probably saw was
Was Seven,
Seven.
yeah.
And then he became what he is. And
Right.
then I retroactively watched Alien, not realizing all along that Alien
separate-
3
Yeah.
was wow.
I get it though, because it doesn't even it does have a little bit. It has a little bit of the nihilism that you would expect to see from a David Fincher film, and a little bit of the aesthetic, but it really doesn't
Quite captured.
capture what he does best by any means. So I can see why you would make the connection. I wouldn't have made the connection, if it wasn't like a thing.
Do you know Cameron's first film?
Oh yeah. Oh, this is good. Yeah, this is good. I do. But
Learning
enlighten
so much.
enlighten us. Oh wait. Actually, Laron or Paris, do you know what
I
James
don't.
Cameron's first film was?
Offhand, I don't know.
Piranha 2.
Toronto 2. Similar situation.
It is.
Okay.
Similar situation.
I mean, sure. I mean,
I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it. That's just fun. I love the
Fun
trivia.
lore.
Yeah, I've seen Piranha 3D. Does that count?
Hey, it does in my
he
book.
said I made Piranha 2, and now I'm going to make one of the most iconic horror sci-fi films ever next. That's crazy.
Yeah. So both of them, I guess, redemption stories in a certain
Absolutely.
light. Yeah. I calling those out. I also want to give a shout out to Greta Gerwig's Little Women. Now, obviously,
Yeah.
Lady Bird was such a smashing success. So I mean, not to say that she had to. That was mostly wow, you just blew us away.
Yeah.
Coming, going from acting into and some writing into actual full blown directing. That was incredible. Do you have any in it? You in it to do it again? And she blew us away again with a totally different type of material.
Yeah.
And then of course we get to Barbie down the road. But
I trust her with anything.
oh yeah,
Chronicles.
Chronicles of Narnia, weird swerve. But I also loved those books as a kid.
Is
so
that what her next project is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
yeah. And
Weird,
I think
but
Weird,
I'm here for it.
I will say I think it's going to be The Magician's Nephew, which we have not received a big screen
Okay,
adaptation
so
for.
starting at the,
Okay.
at the
chronological beginning.
yeah, chronological beginning. Yeah.
Again,
Interesting.
interesting choice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Talk about people making a Zach.
Yeah.
Much like Zach Cregger, we'll talk about it because his next project is Resident Evil, which we'll talk about it. But that's when you're like, all right, you're doing your own thing, you're so good. And then, IP, what are we doing here? I'm curious. All right, listeners. Well, what are your favorite sophomore film outings from a filmmaker, either beloved or infamous? You can let us know by hitting us up on our social media channels, Facebook, the Cinematropolis, Instagram at the Cinematrop, or you can send us an email to the cinematropolis@gmail.com. Without further ado, let's get to our review of Weapons.
This is a true story that happened in my town. So this one Wednesday is like a normal day for the whole school. But today was different. Every other class had all their kids. But Mrs. Gandy's room was totally empty. And you know why? Because the night before, at 2:17 in the morning, every kid woke up, got out of bed, walked downstairs, and into the dark. And they never came back.
So according to IMDb, Weapons is described as when all but one child from the same class mysteriously vanish on the same night at exactly 2:17 a.m., a community is left questioning who or what is behind their disappearance. couple of fun facts, or a few fun facts here. A lot of fun tidbits doing the research for this one. So, of course, as we already know, this is the second film from writer-director Zach Cregger of Barbarian fame. After the crazy runaway success of Barbarian, because that movie sort of came out of nowhere. It was a low-budget horror film, hit theaters, but the word of mouth, I mean, obviously it was a hit. It's a great movie. Played really well with audiences. Word of mouth just really kept that thing alive for at the box office for quite a while. I remember myself hadn't heard anything about this movie.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame.
And then everyone online on like Fridays, like, you got to see this movie, but don't read anything. So by Sunday morning, I was in the theater because I was like, I gotta see without getting spoiled. And yeah,
See, you can make trailers like that where you don't give everything away, and people will show up, and then if it's good, they're gonna buzz about
well,
it.
I think I saw I either never saw the trailer or had seen the trailer and didn't realize it was the trailer for Barbarian.
Yeah, and when you go back and watch it, it tells you nothing. About nothing. It tells you only about the first little.
I didn't even realize Justin Long was in the movie going in. Like, I knew nothing about the movie.
Yeah.
So that movie was a huge hit. New Line secured the rights within 24 hours of a bidding war. Zach Cregger's like, I got a script. Who wants to pay me the most money for it? Not unlike what Rian Johnson did with the Knives Out movies. This is one of the, especially if you're a really hot up-and-coming director, this is one of the popular methods. These people who are like, hey, I have this huge success. I've got a script ready. Who wants to buy it? So within 24 hours of Cregger putting the script for Weapons up, New Line, who is owned by Warner Brothers Discovery, secured the rights within that 24 hours, and they offered $38 million to cover all costs, including the production, the salaries, with Cregger himself receiving $10 million as a writer, director, and producer, and also final cut privileges, which is interesting, though there was a little caveat about pending test screening reactions. And he also guaranteed a theatrical release, which I'm sure when the bidding war was happening was a much bigger deal than it is now. Here's a fun fact. I thought this was interesting too. Just again, getting really into the lore of like how these things are made and whatnot. Universal was also in the bidding war and offered $7 million less than Warner Brothers. And the company that was attached in the bidding war was Jordan Peele's Monkey Paw Productions. And apparently after they lost the bid, Jordan Peele fired his longtime managers, Joel Zedek and Peter Principato. I probably said that wrong. And what was interesting is the latter, Peter there, was also Cregger's manager. So I feel like there was some weird drama or bad blood after that fell through.
Sure.
Anyway, just interesting lore.
I want to live in a world where you piss off Jordan Peele enough to get fired.
Yeah. You don't mess around, man. So another thing that was interesting and notable, this film was originally set with almost an entirely different cast. So the original stars were Pedro Pascal.
Because he needed one more movie.
Yeah, this
year.
summer, especially this summer, this year. Yeah. Oh, goodness. Renata
Rinsva,
yeah. Brian Tyree Henry, Austin Abrams, Tom Burke, and then June Diane Raphael. But due to the SAG-AFTRA and WGA strikes, the film was largely recast, with Josh Brolin replacing Pedro Pascal as Archer, Julia Garner replacing Rinsva as Justine Gandy, Benedict Wong replacing Tyree Henry as Principal Marcus Miller, and then Alden Elkreich replacing Burke. Cregger was inspired to write this screenplay after the death of his close friend and collaborator from the Wise Kid You Know comedy troupe, Trevor Moore. Talk about tragic deaths. I had to read into that one, but died of an accident where he fell off a balcony. Just totally fluke accident. Now, as noted above, Weapons had a production budget of $38 million and opened number one at the U.S. box office on opening weekend, grossing $42.5 million. That's a hit. And then opened at $70 million globally. So in its first weekend, it's made almost double its production budget. So I think it's safe to say this is going to be a huge hit, and Cregger's going to keep getting work for a while. We're going to keep the spoiler-free section pretty light and pretty vague, and really jump into the meat of the conversation and spoilers, because we really just want to protect the sanctity of not knowing what the heck this movie is if you haven't seen any of the trailers. Let's start going around the table. I'll start with you, Brett. What are your overall thoughts on Weapons?
Sure. So can we talk about the format of the movie, or you think that's a spoiler?
You could talk about it being non-conventional.
Okay. Fair
Yeah.
Fair enough. So yeah, I thought I didn't have any idea about the non-conventional format. I was very surprised, but pleased. That's one of my favorites. Mm-hmm. So that was a nice surprise. And speaking of the cast being totally different than originally envisioned, I thought it really worked. I loved all of the cast. I wouldn't change a single person. I thought it was fantastic. I think it could use maybe a little trim. Maybe a little trim. I thought it was a little fatty in some areas, but I have patience, so I don't mind. But I think if you tighten it up, even better. But it was just a great ride, like top to bottom, ton of fun.
Ride. It's a great way to describe it. We saw it together, and what an audience too.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
got some good reactions.
Crowd ate that up.
A fun crowd.
Yeah, that's what you want. Paris Burris, what did you think of Weapons?
Overall, I really liked Weapons. I hadn't actually seen Barbarian until the same day I saw Weapons.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I watched it on Netflix because I was like, I need to watch Barbarian before I watch Weapons. I just feel like that's the right thing to do. And so I watched it that morning, and then I went to see Weapons that evening. I definitely think Barbarian's more up my alley, but I did really like Weapons. I definitely have a lot of gripes about it. There's a lot of things that really bug me about it, or things that just didn't work for me, rather. But overall, I think Zach Cregger is showing a lot of promise and delivery on his directing style. I think what he's doing with the horror genre in particular is very interesting to watch. And so even though I wasn't as hot on Weapons as I was Barbarian, I'm really excited to see what he keeps bringing to the table, because he's bringing a lot of unique approach, and it's interesting to watch.
Yeah.
So.
Feels like it's almost like when Ari Aster showed up a few years ago with Hereditary. It's like, wow, this is both familiar but also distinctly unique and bold. And Cregger seems like he's love it or hate it. You're like, well, that's definitely a thing I haven't seen before, right? Or that feels like, okay, it's obviously got inspirations, but it's distinct. I think it's a good way to put it. Yeah.
And what a hell of a day. I'm so jealous.
Yeah,
dude, for real.
For the first time,
That
too.
is not even like it was. Yeah, I and so the cool thing, just briefly to touch on Barbarian, is I had no idea what it was about. Like after all of these years, like I never had anything spoiled for me. Like, and even when I was watching the movie, I was like, I have no idea where this is going. I have no idea what to expect, and so I think that was really telling of like what y'all were mentioning earlier, that like the marketing and everything. Even when I was hearing about it all the time, because people were talking about it constantly, I still had no idea what this movie was about.
Yeah.
And so it was cool getting to kind of watch it. I should have saw it a lot earlier, but I think
it was a COVID era movie. It kind of came and went. There was a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, so I'm glad I did watch it, but it was one of those things where it's like I legitimately had no idea what. I just threw it on, did not know what it was about. Like, so that was a really cool experience.
Yeah. I'm so glad you like went in totally clean, because I mean, not that it would have ruined the movie,
Justin
but
Long was in it, but that's about it.
See, we didn't even know that. We were like, whoa, what is
like
this
that
movie
was
about?
the only thing I really knew about it. Did
you giggle a little bit when a certain thing happens in this one?
There's a lot of humor to both movies.
Oh, yes.
So yes, I definitely laughed and giggled a lot at a lot of things.
You see the Cregger's background as the comedian really shine through.
Yes.
Yes. And what's interesting though, speaking to what he does, that's like unique though. He and Jordan Peele to a certain extent too.
Yeah.
You're like, they're the same tactics they would use to like make you laugh are also what they use to like make you scared and freak you out. And it's so that line is so thin sometimes, and you see that a lot of that tonal surfing in this movie for sure.
That's his biggest strength, I think.
I think so. Yeah. Laron, what did you think of Weapons?
Yeah, I loved it. He has an ability, as I think we're all kind of alluding to, is the element of surprise and being a deceptive storyteller, because he locks you into whatever it is you're watching in the moment, and then recontextualizes everything you just watched moment to moment. And I find that a really difficult thing to do with modern horror, especially, which is kind of riddled with tropes and things like that. And even I'll forgive it sometimes because I love the genre. It's like a comfort food thing for me. But to actually sit there and say to myself as I'm watching something moment to moment, I do not know where this is going. And every time you get another piece of information, you're like, I still do not know where this is going. Mm-hmm. That is a rare thing to be able to accomplish, with this. And so part of that made me very nervous about where it was going. Because I'm like, man, I'm so locked in. You got me going, and we'll talk more about, where it winds up. But But yeah, for me, he has kind of a mastery of mood and tension and building suspense and character. I liked all these characters, even the ones that aren't really particularly likable. Because we spend enough time with them to actually like be kind of encapsulated in whatever part of the world they are in this particular small town that they're kind of examining, this kind of suburban area. So yeah, so I quite liked it. I thought it was a really worthy follow-up to Barbarian, but I would agree with Paris that I do prefer Barbarian a smidge more in terms of overall impact for me.
Yeah. If you're gonna compare the two, I don't know. It's tough. I think I like things about both of them a little. Like there's certain things I like. I think the overall ride of Barbarian, I just don't think there's any topping that. Like the journey and the surprises that takes you on. I haven't had a chance to rewatch Weapons yet, and that'll honestly be kind of a pretty clear signifier for me how it compares in that light. Sure. Because I thought the ride for this movie was just tremendous. It reminded me of the feeling of Barbarian where. Except for it's a tougher task the second time because Barbarian was a surprise. This time you're like, all right, when's the surprise going to happen? And
right, that going into it because it's him, or at least
there's expectations.
You're expecting that, yeah, for sure.
And everything that's been mentioned so far. I mean, Brett mentioning let's just say we'll talk about more in spoilers with a non-conventional narrative structure. You talk about the tonal surfing that Paris you alluded to, so this distinct. Voice he's bringing, kind of like balancing comedy, and then and also you said the cast as well. There's just a lot of things that worked really well for me. It's we're gonna talk about more in spoilers. I would say it's combining a couple of different genres, and I think that's where the rubber meets the road for a lot of people. I would say it's calling it a fairy tale, a spoiler. It's got that, but it's also set in a modern day. It's also dealing with very real, present emotions that adults in suburban America are probably feeling about a great many things, which again, I think is a strength. But what that leads to, that works for me, that I don't think is going to work for everyone, is you have this sort of like, we're trying to tell a story about real people that encounter this more... Yeah, how do I do this without spoiling it?
It's tough.
Encounter things that you might not see in a traditional true crime genre, for example. And how does that play out? Does that play out in a satisfying way or not? And for me, I think it was overall satisfying, mostly because of that, his superpower to sort of balance a bunch of different tones all in one scene. Yeah. Someone I was talking today compared this to Longlegs, a movie that listeners may recall. And Laron, you as well. We're kind of on the same page. Really liked the vibes, didn't really like the ending. And I liked the vibes in this movie and the ending. There's a lot of overlap in terms of what those movies are trying to do. And I think this movie does it much more successfully. However, the problem still lies, I think, for a lot of people. And like these two things just don't go together. So I don't know why we're bothering to do it.
They want one or the other. Yeah.
Yeah. But also we need to note the cinematography in this film is fantastic. A lot of really awesome, like top down view stuff. A lot of really like cool, like oneers,
I got a chance to see it a second time in IMAX at the Warren.
Nice.
And that was an equally energetic crowd. Definitely saw more in the frame that I missed during our first screening. But it definitely was still a fun ride. I wondered if that second viewing, now that I knew what was going to happen, if that was going to affect things. But I think the ride still works very well.
Good. Yeah.
It still feels like a very slick kind of like, even though I know I felt very much still like engaged. So
yeah. No, I think it's good. I do think though that there's going to be a couple points in the movie that people either are in or they're not.
Yeah.
And if they're not, they're probably not going to like the movie.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest. So that's my take though. I think overall this is a resounding success for Zach Cregger. It's not a perfect movie. Sure. I think it could be a little leaner in places. I do think there is some use of that narrative structure that leads to maybe some potential trimming of the fat, so to speak.
Yeah.
And there's actually a couple of things that I can't believe I'm saying this. They could have elaborated a little more on.
Sure.
Okay.
Spoiler stuff.
Okay.
But otherwise, I think this is a great time. Great movie. Before we get to letter grades, since we've been trying to be vague about what the film is really about, how would you describe this film to someone who hasn't seen it yet? And I'll throw it to you first, Laron.
I feel like it's a puzzle. You know, it feels a lot like we're going to allude to some of the films that it might be drawing inspiration from, but it definitely has an interesting, as we've mentioned, an interesting structure that definitely isn't like just traditionally horrific. It kind of, you know, if anything, it feels more like this actually starting to feel very ordinary, you know, like, and that's interesting. But so where could it be going? You know, because clearly what happened is unusual, you know. So it has kind of a weird Twilight Zone kind of vibe to it, where there's just a little off kilter thing about, you know, everything that's happening, and something very peculiar in this tone. And that's because he is juggling a lot with dark humor. There's like a kind of a very sophisticated amount of like kind of satire just under the surface, where it's not quite going camp, you know, but it's just kind of right there of being, you know, a little bit absurdist, you know, while also playing it straight, you know, moment to moment. And so it's a mystery thriller, I think, first, and then, you know, but there's definitely some exciting moments that would definitely put it in the horror camp, you know.
Oh gosh, are we really going to revisit that? Is this really a horror? No, I'm just joking. Paris, how would you describe the film to someone who hasn't seen it?
I would agree that it is very much so a mystery thriller with horror elements. I think that it is indicative of a lot of the trends that we are seeing in the horror genre. Even though I agree that it's much more of a mystery thriller than it is horror, I think that that is something we're seeing with horror, is horror taking different genres and mixing them in, going in different ways than maybe we're used to. And like a lot of people, you know, I think that if you're like a fan of Ari Aster or Jordan Peele and what they're doing with the horror genre, then you'll be a fan of Weapons. Or if you are a mystery, true crime kind of fan, I think you'll be into this movie. But like a lot of people describe like what's going on with that, with the Ari Asters and the Jordan Peeles, is like this idea of like highbrow horror. And I don't like using that term because A, I don't think it matters if something is highbrow or lowbrow. And B, I don't think that that's really a correct way of evaluating a movie. However, I do think, for lack of a better way of describing, I guess, that movement we're seeing in the horror genre right now. Like, that's definitely the wavelength that Zach Cregger is on. And so, yeah, it's a hard movie to describe because, you know, what's being presented to you in the trailers and everything makes you feel like it's going to be a movie about one thing, and then it turns out to be a movie about something completely different. And so that's kind of my convoluted description.
Yeah, I think that's great.
This whole podcast is just an exercise in how can we describe this movie without spoiling it.
Anything at all.
Yes. Brett, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say more than you guys have without giving anything away, but I would say also in terms of what Jordan Peele and others are doing in the highbrow, lowbrow argument, it's more about bringing different elements from different genres together, and I think that's what's giving that vibe, and this definitely does that. It maintains its tension throughout. I think that's a really good selling point for someone who hasn't seen it. But it's also funny in so many parts. I mean, I laughed more than I laugh in some comedies.
I think it's palatable for even people who maybe don't particularly love horror.
Yeah.
I think there's enough. I mean, there's definitely some gnarly shit that happens.
Sure.
But like in terms of like overall, just the structure and the way that the story unfolds, I feel like it might be a good gatekeeper.
It's not a scare a minute sort of thing, like jump scares or anything like that. You know, I brought my wife to see it, and I had to. Now, granted, Lauren watches horror, but she doesn't usually go out to the theater for a ton of horror unless she thinks it's going to be kind of lighter. And she saw the trailer, she's like, "Oh, this is way too scary for me." But then, you know, some persuasion occurred, and she went out for it, and she was like, and she walked out, and she was like, immediately like, "I loved it. It's great." You know, so to your point, I think it's very accessible.
Yeah. I saw her grab you a few times, huddle in close.
That sometimes sounds like a dirty word because it's accessible, but not like in the sense that it's like
No, I
You know
don't.
what I mean?
not
Like
bland
it's
or
not
whatever.
bland.
No.
yeah,
It's
but-
not accessible as in it's dumbed down. It's accessible though, as in, and I think because of what Brett, you and Parrish are talking about, like he's doing things that make it more palpable to a broader audience by using
other
genres that people
Yes.
are more familiar with, like the true crime and the mystery thriller. Kind of maybe more like a Silence of the Lambs sort of thing, rather than a straight up horror. But that doesn't mean it's dumbed down by any means.
Right,
just
yeah,
to be
yeah.
clear. Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Oh, okay. Made to cut you off there. Sorry.
No, you didn't.
I would, like I said, I use the word fairy tale, which I thought it's not quite spoiler, but I'm just gonna throw it out there. It's a grim fairy tale set in suburban America with the, sort of mystery thriller being like the narrative vehicle that's driving the plot forward. And if you like either in two of the three of those things, you're probably gonna like the movie.
Yeah.
So yeah. Well, what letter grade would we give Weapons? Burris, I'll start with you.
I think I'll give it a B-.
B-.
Okay.
All right. Going with the B- club. LeBron Chapman?
I would say it is an A theater going experience, with
Yeah.
a group of friends. Definitely both times I watched it, it's a fun ride. The more nitpicky film critic in me would give it a B+, and say solidly this is a B+ movie that I think will stay there and will remain that and be something that I would love to just put on. I think it does have replayability, a replayability factor to it. So yeah, I'll stick with a B+.
B+. Important distinction there. A, theater going experience, B+. Yeah. So Brett Grimes, what letter grade would you give it?
That 100% encapsulates what I have written down.
Okay.
B+.
Yeah.
Yeah, but a movie going experience for sure.
Well, I'm just going to say A- to split the difference on
All right.
that.
All right.
Yeah, I think, I need to see it again for sure, but I feel really good in that. I feel like it's one I'm going to want to rewatch. It's much like Barbarian. I'm eager to rewatch it. And I'm also eager to rewatch it with people who haven't seen it, much like Barbarian. And just that knowing that I'm going to want to rewatch it so much really helps me give it that bump to overlook some of the flaws. Because then the flaws are really, for me, are major.
Yeah, they're all minor.
They're all relatively minor. And A-. What other media recommendations would we throw out there for our listeners? Could be TV, music, what have you. Brett Grimes, I'll start with you.
Sure. I like comics, so I'm going to go for that. There is a series that was short. You can get the whole thing in 2 hardback collections. It's an Image Comics. It's called Gideon Falls, and it's by, let's see, I have this written down. I want to get it right. Jeff Lemire is the writer, and Andrea Sorrentino is the artist. And they work a lot together. It's a horror comic. It does not have any of the humor of this movie, but it definitely has the vibes in terms of kind of the overarching mystery, the suspense. It has the same narrative structure that we're not going to spoil in the comic that this movie has. That's pretty fun. But yeah, it's a great one. Gideon Falls. Highly recommend it.
Very cool.
Oh, also I have one more. I've
Yeah.
already recommended this to you once, Caleb.
Yeah, go for it.
Black Summer on Netflix.
Yes.
Also,
yeah.
similar narrative structure, but man, I can't recommend that enough if people haven't seen it.
You want some zombie action?
Yeah.
I did see that. And I thought it was funny. That was a spinoff of which zombie show was it?
I can't remember.
It was one of the zombie shows. Z Nation.
Z Nation. That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
Very cool.
You don't have to watch that though. Just go watch Black Summer.
Yeah. Well, that was why I was surprised. You're like, no, it's great. And I'm like, okay, really, Z Nation spinoff. But sometimes spinoffs are better.
Yeah.
Burris, what would you recommend to listeners?
I would recommend going and playing the Resident Evil games if you haven't. And then because he's directing a Resident Evil movie. And so get ready for that. If you've played them, go replay them. If you haven't played them, go play them.
And he says he's going to be very faithful to
Yes,
that.
that he's a fan.
Okay.
He's a fan, so that makes me more. I mean, not that that franchise.
I
is
do
in
have
need
faith
of
in
a-
him. I really
yeah.
do feel like if there is a director who can properly pull off a Resident Evil modern day adaptation, then it's him. I really, really feel like he'll do a good job, but we'll see.
I'm very I'm with you, Paris, because the Resident Evil games are the whiplash is this is a silly B movie moment. Oh my God, this horrific thing happens just like that. And but it's also vibey. So he seems uniquely qualified to handle that. Some interesting though, I was doing some digging on this. We'll talk about more in spoilers too, I guess. But the Resident Evil adaptation originally it was being sold as being like very faithful to the games. And he says he is going to be faithful to the games, but also it's not going to be an adaptation of any previous game. So he's like, it's not going to star Leon. It's going to be all new characters, but it's going to follow the same rules the games follow. So that's exciting to me
I'm
as
cool
a
with
fan because I think he was like, well, his point was a point I would raise a lot. He's like, Leon only exists in the games. Chris exists in the games. You already know their stories. It'd be boring to retell that. We're going to tell a new story set in the same universe. I think it's a cool idea.
Yeah. Did you have another one?
Oh, I was just going to add too, I am a fan of the Paul W.S. Anderson Resident Evil with Mia Jovovich.
Of course.
And all. I love that movie. So
I have
too.
five.
Go watch
good.
that if you haven't watched it, or go rewatch it and see how you feel about it, because it gets so much hate. I can't say I can defend all of those movies, but what I can say is at least that first one.
Oh yeah.
It's right up my alley. I love it. It's also very nostalgic. So
I have 5 lady crushes, and Mila Jovovich is on that list. But it started with The Fifth Element for me.
Yeah. Oh, same. She was one growing up I was obsessed with, for sure. But yeah, and then I think that this is a very interesting movie in regards to hagsploitation, which I can't say it is a hagsploitation film because it, that was something that happened a long time ago. But I feel like it is veering into a modern day depiction of hagsploitation, which is this idea of like basically taking older actresses and making them villains, and there's like a whole history of it, but that is something I think if you're not familiar with hagsploitation, think like Sunset Boulevard or Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, things like that. Mm-hmm. And maybe go and do like a little, deep dive into those movies about like old women who are like past their prime and they're depicted as like these villainous characters and stuff like that. I'm hoping that's not, I haven't specified anything about this movie and how it does that, so I hope it's not too much of a spoiler. But that was something that it reminded me of, and it's very similar to like X, which I would say go watch X, though that is different because you have a younger actor playing an older character, so not quite the same, but interesting movies which like older women as the villains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Old people are scary. But old women in particular, I feel like are portrayed as scary more than old men typically. I feel like,
we should be far more scared of old men.
Oh, yeah, are you kidding me? Yeah, just turn on the news. We already, that's why they haven't done it. So, Laron Chapman. By the way, Paris, thank you for those recs. Also, big fan of the Resident Evil movies. I'm with you. First one, someone I would actually go to bat for that. The rest of them, I would say, well, I like them.
Right.
And I'll tell you why. And if you think they're trash, I get it. my favorite party game is I can name all the Resident Evil movies in chronological order.
And he can do it. He can do it.
There's a lot
with the subtitles.
There's a lot of them. Okay, Laron Chapman, what else? What would you recommend?
So I have 3, but 2 of them are kind of cheating because Zach Cregger did a Letterboxd.
I think I saw
top
that.
4, like 4 movies to think about when you're watching this, and I definitely see them. But I will say I did the 2 of the 4 that he listed were definitely things I picked up on before I saw this. So one of them is Prisoners by Denis Villeneuve, and then Paul Thomas Anderson's Magnolia. There's definitely those things are coded all throughout this in the cinematography and the story structure and even the element of missing children, as part of the story. But one that I saw recently that's not on the cheat list of definitely is inspired in this was Strange Darling from I think it was last year. Was it just last year?
Last year.
Takes a very similar narrative approach to an unconventional narrative approach to the story, and has a similar effect and impact as we learn in with each piece of the story. what is actually happening is not what we think is happening, and that's a very fun thing if done well, So.
Oh, that's always a fun thing. We're gonna talk about so much more in spoilers in a minute, but the non-conventional storytelling mechanism that we use here is I just think it's chef's kiss. I would throw out Prisoners was on my list as well. And I hope this brings Prisoners back to remember how great that movie was, everyone? Because it got some love at the time, but I don't feel like it ever fully got its dues. It got overshadowed by Villeneuve's other movies that were also great. But I was like, no, that's
it's a good one in his filmography.
It's one of Hugh Jackman's better performances, I would argue.
And it was when I didn't hate Jake Gyllenhaal.
I thought he was incredible.
He is incredible in it.
It's a tough watch.
It's one where I'm like, you know what? I don't like you, but you're doing something. You're doing something good here.
This is that might have been where the Caleb has a not a crush, but I just really like to watch. I just found Jake Gyllenhaal very watchable. Might have started with that movie, maybe.
Yeah.
I would also throw out in terms of missing children movies, the movie Searching, starring John Cho. I know that's one of those movies that's made completely from a computer desktop or cell phone screen or whatever, and it's more of it's just a really interesting way to explore how do we tell stories, especially if you're fixed on something like a computer screen. What are the different mechanisms you can deploy in order to still tell a story that is also not deeply boring. And that one also takes a lot of unexpected twists and turns throughout. Wouldn't say it's a great movie, but in terms of recent movies about missing kids doing some interesting things visually, I like that one. Also, Gone Baby Gone. Ben Affleck. It's not as good as The Town, but it's a solid first outing. I like it. Missing kids. A lot of missing stuff. You can check those out. Also, I'm not necessarily recommending the movie, but I've noticed the thing that Zach Cregger has been saying a lot on the press tour is he's talking about the first time I saw the trailer for Needful Things, I was sold. And he was fired up. And I was like, I'm glad to see that there was someone out there. Because I also love the idea of Needful Things on paper. The movie just isn't that good, even though it has all the ingredients to be good. Yeah. But I was like, I'm so glad that he was as fired up about a movie that turned out to be bad as I was when I heard it existed. Yeah. Those are our recommendations for Weapons. We are going to get really into the spoilers here. So if you don't want to be spoiled on Weapons, stop now. Go see the movie. We all gave it a B- to an A- score. Clearly, we think it's at least worth your time at a matinee at the very least. So stop listening to the podcast, go watch it, and then come back.
Mr. Branham, you are against the banning of the armor-piercing Death Master. Yep. This gun can shoot through bulletproof vests and Kevlar, the #1 cause of police fatalities last year.
4 years ago, it was only number 7. It's the fastest growing gun on the market. It's amazing.
Frightening, Mr. Branham. Why do hunters need to be shooting through bulletproof vests?
Really? Do I need to spell this out? Say a bunch of punk kids go out into the woods with a bulletproof vest and they strap it on a grizzly bear. Then what do you got? Invincible bears. Is that what you want? Invincible bears running around, raping your churches, burning your women? Help us. Someone get all these bears out of here. Stop these invincible bears. I'm sorry, we threw our special guns away.
Everybody knows you could smush a bear by throwing a giant boulder on it.
What if you people make giant boulders legal because of all the innocent people that get killed by giant boulders?
People don't kill people with giant boulders.
They will if you take away their assault rifles.
Oh!
Spoilers. Again.
Thank God.
Please. Now we can actually talk about the movie, for real.
Yeah, I had to stop myself earlier.
That was painful. I'm curious if this is what you were alluding to, Paris, when you were saying the trailers were selling it as being about one thing and it turns out to be something else. My interpretation, I'm sure is a lot of people's, where I'd assume, is that school shootings were going to be somehow a part of either the subtext or part of the story somehow. And this movie is not that. At least not on the surface. I think there's still some thematic stuff that you could tie to school shootings in terms of trauma, like communal trauma, the suburban America, how we're coping with it. But it is definitely not about that on the label. But I do think it does sort of explore how such an inexplicable and horrific event really could haunt the psychology of the adults in the town. I mean, this is the kind of thing in Halloween Ends that I would have loved to have seen.
Yeah.
This film also uses a non-linear story structure, that being specifically you're following the individual stories of certain characters who are directly affected by the disappearance. So you're getting their POV, like told in chapters, and we learn more and more about the core mystery as we progress. So you kind of piece it together along with the characters in a lot of ways, which is super fun. So I don't know. Paris, I'll let you kick us off here. What did you think of the film's like sort of non-linear approach to exploring each of these characters, both as, character work, but also as a vehicle to kind of like dig into the mystery?
So yeah, the structure is very interesting. It's very different, not what I was expecting. But I would say it was my biggest gripe about the movie.
Okay.
I did not like the structure at all.
Oh no.
I felt that I was into it and kind of digging it. But by the time we were past the third storyline, and the names just kept coming, and it just kept happening and kept going, I was like, can we please
Just wrap it up.
get to the point here? And I don't know. I think they did it 5 times at least.
It's
Six?
I think it's 7. Yeah.
7.
Yeah.
I
7
count it.
Yeah.
I count it this second
Yeah.
time.
Okay, no wonder. Because honestly, I was just like into it for maybe the first 3 or so. Then I was just sick of it by that point. And then it's not to say that the structure is bad. It's just that I didn't enjoy it personally. I think that it works for a lot of other people. I think that, talking to other people who I went to the theater and watched it with, a lot of them liked it. But for me, now, especially that I realize it was 7 times because I didn't count. I just knew it was too many times. There's that golden rule of 3 times, right? Do it 3 times, great, but 7 times. I think for me, it could have worked if A, the characters were more interesting. B, I felt like the payoff for slogging through all of that was worth it. Because I see what they were doing. Like, you were getting little nuggets of these characters and then fleshing them out. And then by the grand finale of everything, like, it all comes together. And, like, there's like, a humor to seeing, like, the junkie character getting thrown around when you just spent, like, all that time, like, getting to know him. And, like, I felt like he was probably my favorite, more interesting character to watch. Like, but it wasn't enough to make me be like, okay, yeah, I don't regret sitting through all these storylines. Like, the payoff just wasn't there for me. I didn't find the characters very compelling. And then just also, like, by the end of it, I'm just like, okay, so all of that was just to explain that it was witchcraft.
Yeah.
It was witchcraft.
Yeah.
That we spent all that time to get there. That's it. And I really just, like I said, I enjoyed the movie overall. Like, there was a lot that I really loved about it, but the structure was what killed it for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I figured like the witchcraft thing where it became. I was like, I think because I was talking to someone earlier today who did not like this movie. I mean, you liked it, but they actually really didn't like it. And witchcraft was the thing. They're like, and I found out like I was into it for about the first half, and then I realized it was witchcraft, and I was like, well, this is boring. And that's what I was saying earlier. You're either on board or you're not
With that
or
as a
not.
thread, yeah.
Yeah. And if you're not, I kind of get it and that's why I was saying I've been having this like conversation with myself all day because it was the same thing with Longlegs for me, where I was like, well, there's a couple different ways this could go, and one of them is it's just supernatural demon stuff, and if it's that, I'm not really that interested.
Then
and
why do we invest all this time?
Right. But for some reason, I've been trying to kind of thread the needle in my brain why this works better. And I think it's just the way, separately from you, I think it's because I actually did like the way we get parsed the information throughout. So it kept me hooked. And I also thought the payoff outside of the witchcraft part, just the kids chasing her through the houses, and everything in the house in that last confrontation at the end was money. Everything from the junkie, he just keeps getting back up. To the sleazy cop getting in a fight with the teacher, and then the kids and that's not narratively actually satisfying, but it's the execution of the moments. And then I think the other thing is like just the way it wraps up because of the fairy tale framework. We start with a once upon a time and we end with and this is how it all ended. And by the way, it was very sad. I don't know why. If it's a weird execution difference. And I'm not saying I don't know if I could defend it if someone said, well, you didn't like it here, but you liked it here. Why? And I'm like,
to be fair too, like I love the bleak ending. I love bleak movies. I love that bleak. You don't get enough of that in movies. I love the bleakness of it.
Yeah.
And also to be fair too, I love witches. I love witchcraft. Like vampires and witches. Like I am 9 times out of 10 a huge fan of those in movies. I just love that stuff. But I think too, it was revealed very early on when witch is written on her car. I'm like, okay, we just got told what's going on here. Mm-hmm. And so it was just like, to me, it was just like, I loved the ending too. I love the, chase and the cinematography that we get to see during that. And like, I just felt like it just wasn't quite enough to make me feel good about sitting through all of these different chapters when I felt like it, and I hate that I'm saying this, but it's like we could have shortened the movie so much and could have gotten there so much faster, because for me, I'm like, it's not about the length of a movie or like anything like that. But in this case, I was like,
too much to do about nothing.
Yeah. I'm like, what? But maybe that was just mostly because I found all of the characters to be pretty bland. Like I don't know, but it like almost worked, but it just, I really think that it was just, I was really feeling that slog by that 4th or 5th name. And it really affected a lot, but.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair criticism. And it's another one of the choices he makes between it being witches and the storytelling structure. It's like, it works for you or it doesn't. And I think that's fair. Like, not every choice is going to work for everyone. Yeah. Now, Brett, you did say you like the narrative structure, so tell us a little bit more about your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So I thought the structure really worked, and I thought it helped to keep the whole movie fresh. I do agree that it has a little slog, and personally for me, I think it's because that first chapter is so long. Yeah. I think if you cut that one down, I can't remember the character's name, but
Justine.
If you cut Justine's story down 10 minutes, I think the whole thing is a little smoother. I really liked, though, how fresh each section felt as you kind of got to get into those characters' stories. And it allowed Cregger to genre hop a little bit, where like you're with Paul the cop and suddenly it's a little more crimey. You have the camera inside the car and you're doing a little chase scene, which was so well done. I hope he does, it's a question later of what he does next, but hopefully it's something crime related, because man, that was really tense. The junkie character, that was really frantic and funky, and I also liked that the score changed a little bit between each section. Like, it's really percussive. There's a lot of different drums in this, but when you get to the junkie, suddenly there's like a little trap snare, hitting every other beat. I just thought it helped to keep it, keep me guessing, along with the plot where it was going to go next.
Yeah. All right. Well, Laron, what did you make of the narrative structure?
I feel like the narrative structure is one of those things that is a huge bug for me if it's not, you know what I mean? Like if it's not employed well.
Right.
Because that's the thing, to Perez's point, like if you're not invested in each thing as it's going along, then it can definitely take you out of it. But for me, at least as the case with this movie, I actually, I think what I think that structure does is it forces you to pay attention, because all of a sudden it's like, like I can see from a repetitiveness. Yeah. Like I just saw this. Like I don't want to see the same dialogue again. I don't want to see, like, just get me to the piece that's different. You know what I mean? Like I get that as a, like in your mind, especially if you're not invested in what you're watching. I just happen to be invested in each of these chapters as it was happening. And so, and then getting that little snippet of something different that that actually makes you question your expectations or what you thought you were seeing before, just kept it, fresh for me each time. Like,
Yep.
okay. The additional scene, I guess you would say, in each chapter is what made, it just kept locking me back in with each one, if that makes sense. And so, yeah, I quite actually liked the structure of it. And I do agree that, like the there that's in this, what we actually ultimately find out isn't the most interesting or original thing that we've seen. Like, okay, like we've been here before. But for me, it's the yes and, meaning that last stretch. Like, yes, we get here, but it's almost like this isn't even the point of it. This movie is a ride. It's kind of a roller coaster ride.
It is.
And the thing is, yeah, we know this, but you didn't know that you were going to get this this epic kind of like chase scene, through this suburban town and see, that gnarly final, moment. We didn't expect that. We knew that we were going to maybe find these missing children, but we didn't know how they were going to be employed in the story.
Right.
Like, how are they going to be weaponized in the story? And that paid off for me in such a big way that it ends on such a satisfactory note where I'm like, you get that cathartic release, I guess, because we all secretly wanted to see bloodshed happen to this horrific character. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, you definitely get the catharsis at the end.
Yeah.
I don't want to repeat myself too much, but just to Laron, your point, I got kind of a similar experience. I will say not every storyline was as interesting as the one that came before or after it. And I do think that first one sets a slower pacing than we needed. And I liked some of the cop stuff was good, but I didn't like that character. The teacher was okay. I purely, and this is a casting choice, probably wouldn't like Josh Brolin's character if he wasn't played by Josh Brolin, who just has a certain amount of dad charisma, gruff energy. I'm like, because on paper he's just kind of an asshole. But
I could totally see Pedro in that role too. In my mind, I'm thinking about it.
I'm glad that Brolin got it though.
I agree. He has because Pedro's oversaturated right now. He's 5 movies.
Well, and he's too nice. He's too nice. Nice. Brolin could be mean, and his son's the bully too. Which is notable. So it worked for me, and I loved just the little moments. So like for example, in the first one, you just get the glimpse of, there's newspaper all over the house. Well, why is that nuisance? Oh my gosh, there's these figures sitting in the room. Well, what's that about? And then you actually don't get payoff for that for quite a while.
Yeah.
But once you do, it's like they're just these two people sitting there. What's up with that? And then you start asking more questions.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a mystery box with every new chapter that comes around. And does this movie answer every single question that raises? Probably not. But at the end of the day, I think it's more about the experience and the vibe and the ride. But again, I'm going back to Long Legs. I had the same opposite. I was on the opposite side of that argument.
But the
against
ending
that
here is
movie.
just more satisfying.
It's just more satisfying.
It's just more satisfying overall.
Yeah. Zero doubts. Yep. Yeah. I do want to dig into, the take on the underlying trauma of the town though, because though the movie's not really about school shootings per se, I think I had to sit for this for a while because I was trying to connect the dots. Why is this movie called Weapons? Why is there a giant AR-15 floating in the sky in Josh Brolin's dream? Why did they market it this way if it's not about school shootings? And I think kind of where I'm landing on this is it's not really about school shootings as much as about the trauma they incur on a town. And I think that's what's interesting about also getting into all these different characters' perspectives are how are they all coping with and processing this horrible thing that happened that has left all these open questions they don't have answers to. Whether it's alcoholism, is it anger, is it depression? It's just a really interesting way to look at when a terrible thing happens to a town, it changes how people interact with one another, and also shapes the culture of the town. Everyone's angry, everyone's on edge. So I don't know. I just want to see what you guys thought about that. Laron, what was your take there?
Yeah, like I said, all I could think about was Haddingville. Is it Haddingville or Haddingtown? Haddington in Halloween because I just thought Gordon was onto something really cool and interesting that he just did in such a hackneyed and like obvious and kind of way. Where here it like you could feel that this was like that first town hall meeting is so strong, I feel like. And I think the reaction, like I really felt for the Justine character because even without knowing fully if she does have anything to do with the missing kids, there's this like this perception that everyone has of something, and we live in a culture right now that just runs with the smallest piece of information or misinformation, and how that breeds this like this kind of, you know what I mean, this like doubling down, pile on, trash this person before we truly know all of the details about any particular thing. And I think that they captured that very well. The blame game. It doesn't even make sense that she would even have anything to do with it. It's literally on video footage showing this weird anomaly of kids running simultaneously at the same time, in the middle of the night. Like, how could she possibly have anything to do with that? And, unless it's something like supernatural or weird like that, which none of these people seem to even be on the cusp of even alluding to believing that's the case, So it just felt like, like a prime example of how we need someone to blame. We need somewhere to place this trauma and this animosity. And you're a survivor. And I don't, you know what I mean? Like they're just projecting all of that onto her. And I found that rings true in our society, particularly now, as everything is very politically fraught. And, and so.
Well, I thought it was interesting how, in the second Archer has like a really meaningful conversation with her. Actually, it's like, oh, we're good now. In fact, we're going to work on this mystery together. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like if you just reach out and talk to each other, and realize that maybe
jumping to conclusions and going on your own rabbit hole,
or you get attacked by the principal who's been doing what did we say in the Naruto run? Is that the stance we're going with? Yeah,
that sequence is A+ for me.
Oh gosh, yeah,
it's just funny.
Isn't that cool? Okay, I like it both ways. Both the first time you see it
like,
from Archer's perspective, you're like, wait, is that? Oh my god, what's going on? And why is this? And then boom, and then when you see with the why, but I love the way they edit that sequence where you see him running across the entire town, like the way they edit that together. It's just
like how
his
long
eyes get
running.
bigger and bigger.
Yeah,
oh, man, good stuff. Yeah. Paris, what was your take on traumatized suburban America?
I agree that it definitely is like doing a really good job of examining how trauma can affect a whole town and all the different ways it can be on an individual basis, whether you be the parent, the teacher, the kid, what have you. But really what resonated with me the most was its exploration of isolation and childhood trauma and the marriage between those two things. How isolating it can be when you're a kid going through trauma alone with no one to turn to. That was what really resonated with me a lot, because it's so interesting how we are presented this idea of this one kid being the one who escaped the trauma, yet he's the only one going through it in the way that he's going through it. And Zach Cregger, I just heard today a very small snippet of him talking about how autobiographical the third act is for him as someone who had alcoholic parents, and kind of the trauma of like that experience. And so what really got to me was this idea of your parents becoming unable to help you. They're taken away from you. You have to deal with this strange person who's causing harm to you by yourself. And there's no one that you can turn to. There's no one you can tell because, just all the varying factors in this movie sense. But, like, that's such a real experience for children. And it was such an interesting, it's probably my favorite thing about the movie is how it explores that. Having to, be this kid who has to be strong and has to be an adult in many ways and figure out he really goes through it, and it's like, yes, this is a, fantastical movie experience that is, fiction and all that, but just how real it felt that depiction of childhood trauma by way of isolation, and I just felt that was very potent. So I think it explores trauma in a lot of different ways. I think it's multifaceted in exploration of trauma, but that particular aspect was what was particularly touching for me.
I didn't know the bit about the parents with the alcoholism. That's well, at first that's very sad that he had to experience that, but also kind of adds in a layer to yes, and what you said. Not only does he not have his parents, he has to take care of them, and he has to take care of all the kids.
Yeah,
many of those kids who bullied him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it's almost like he's a double victim. You know?
Yeah, and it's too, again, this very dramatic sense of like, okay, it's witchcraft and his parents are stabbing themselves with forks and like things like that. Those aren't like typically real experiences that people have, but that universal experience of, having to go through trauma as a kid and like not being able to turn to anybody, and like there's that part where he is talking to Gladys when she's sick and on the floor puking. And he is, because I was talking to this about some people after the movie too. They were like, oh, he was just such a good kid because he was even still concerned about Gladys and like asking her if she's okay. Like, what can he do to help her? And I was like, yes, that's a fawn response for people abused children who are, I'm not saying that he wasn't just a good kid who probably actually did care about his aunt.
Yeah.
But that's a fawn response of where you're just trying to say or do whatever it is that will keep you out of harm's way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so it's just like these subtle things here and there where it really felt like Zach Cregger is someone who's experienced that and can really portray it in these subtle ways that those of us who have also experienced childhood trauma can pick up on and be like, I feel seen, know?
Yeah. Well said.
yeah.
Brett, anything you want to add just about sort of how the film is, digging into the trauma and that's put upon the town or any of the characters?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything you guys have said pretty much covers all the bases. I think it's an interesting look at survivor's guilt through the main kid. Not only being guilty for surviving, but like we've said, having to take care of both his parents and all the kids. Like, man.
Yeah.
One thing that the movie did that was interesting is when it starts and the kids are running away, it's almost kind of exhilarating and freeing, and it doesn't feel like a trauma for the kids.
The music that they,
I was going to say that
song that they play, I downloaded it and I'm like, it's definitely gives you the vibe of like freedom. Like they're like this is a beautiful shot of like kids just frolicking in the street having a good time, and that threw me off balance knowing that this was a horror film. I'm like, why am I feeling weirdly, like you said, good or like in a you know what I mean, like in that spirit when I know that what's happening is actually a horrific thing. But anyway, go ahead.
Right. No, I was just gonna say that's an interesting contrast from that and then to the town hall where it's dimly lit and parents are angry, and I'm not quite sure what he's actually trying to say with that, but it does make for an interesting viewing experience. It's Haddonfield, by the way.
Did I say Haddington?
We did, and I agreed with you.
Paddington.
Paddington.
It's actually Paddington.
Paddington. Thank you for the correction. You're right. The angry listeners will correct you. It is Haddonfield. Thank you. Thank you, Brett, for being a hero, correcting us before we get corrected. I mean, wow. I think this was fun. There's just a lot to unpack here, even if it's not perfect. Speaking of things we got unpacked, I mentioned it already, but the AR-15 in the sky, because that was a thing. It was like, well, it's not about school shootings. At least it's deep in the reading if you want it to be there. But also, why is there an AR-15 with the number 217 written on it? 217 also, coincidentally, they disappeared at 2:17 a.m. Brett, you gave me an interesting tidbit of information the other day. It might be interesting for listeners too.
Sure. So right after the movie, my wife Rory and I are talking about this and the number 217, and she's off the cuff is like, "Oh yeah, that's the room in The Shining."
Yeah, but not the movie.
Not the movie. That's 237, right?
237.
Yeah, but in the book, 217, and of course behind that door is your like hag witch who preys on little Danny.
Okay.
Yeah. So we backed that up. We found an article I shared with you. And that Cregger said, "Yeah, I just like the number because of The Shining, and I'm a big fan of the book and the movie." And
What a nod.
yeah,
Doesn't explain why put it on an AR-15.
well, here's my theory on that, and it's the hot take. It's just because it's provocative.
Yeah.
I really don't think.
I'm kind of leaning that way too.
I really don't think Cregger has a lot of like deep, things he's hiding in this movie for us to decode later. I think it's just about the ride.
Yeah.
And I think even Brolin, when he wakes up, what does he say?
What the fuck?
Exactly.
Which was hilarious.
I think that's the whole point.
Because that's
I think
literally what we
the
were
whole
all
point.
thinking at the time. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like with that, in the first time I was intrigued by it because I thought there was like some intrinsic, deeper meaning behind it. But after the second time seeing it, I actually have come around to thinking of that as a bug for me, that particular thing.
Yeah.
Just because I don't think it's necessary. I think we kind of get everything that you're alluding to, even if not directly, without prominently displaying an AR-15, which very directly references like school shootings or mass shootings, or in that way a gun epidemic, which we are still
yes,
actively dealing with in our country
on a daily basis.
So
Yeah.
I just don't feel like that was a necessary visual element if you weren't going to explore that specific issue in a more pronounced way. I'm not saying this movie needs it, like that we had to talk about that issue, but maybe then don't put that there. Like we can still have that conversation and without it being like this.
See, Laron, I'm with you, except for then I realized we live in a society where if you don't shout subtext at people,
That's
they don't
true.
they don't think
get
about it.
it.
They don't even think about it.
They don't even, yeah.
I feel like that's why I put it there. That's
It just seems so obvious, and I think that's what it.
It's obvious to this table
Yeah.
and probably a lot of viewers, but I also think that there's probably a lot of people it's
true.
not obvious for.
Yeah.
I don't know, Paris, what was your take here?
I love that part of the movie. Honestly, my favorite part of the movie, because I felt like so much of the movie was giving backstory, giving context, explaining things here and there. Like so much of this putting a puzzle piece together, putting this puzzle together. I loved that because it was the one thing that they didn't explain. And I was like, thank God, because I just felt like, we are putting this puzzle together and it's kind of like you have this random piece that is
Doesn't
an
quite
extra
fit.
piece that doesn't quite fit. Now, I am not going to say we couldn't sit here and derive meaning.
Yeah,
There's
sure.
so many different things it could mean. There's so many different ways to possibly explain it. But I love that it's just there. It's weird. It's creepy. It's scary. It's otherworldly. It's
not clear.
it's unclear.
And it's a dream, and it's in a dream sequence.
So-
So you could, if nothing else, you could write away as it was a dream.
And he has weapons in his like arsenal in his house and stuff like that. So who knows what it means to him specifically in his subconscious or what have you.
He seems like a
So-
military guy.
Right,
There's
so-
so many things that
Sure.
you could like put on it, but I loved the part of it when it happened, how I felt, because that to me is when the movie really was like, okay, we're gonna get into some weird stuff. But I also, again, after looking back, I'm like, that's the one thing they let just be. It just was, you know, and I liked that a lot. So I'm a big fan of that.
Well, even in this
that-
conversation, you've made me at least okay. Maybe I don't hate it so much.
Well, I mean, because I also really like it. I think a lot of things are true at one time. I think he did just throw it in there, but I also think he threw it in there so people were talking about
talking
it.
about it.
And if nothing else, if this is his attempt, even though the movie's not overtly about school shootings, it's called Weapons. There's an AR-15 in the
There are
sky,
missing kids.
and it's like, yeah. That's not the story, but also it's a conversation starter about, man, isn't that crazy that there was an AR-15 in the sky in a movie about disappearing kids?
Yeah, it's like I've never seen that in another movie before. Like I've
Right.
literally never seen that. It's
Right.
like I love it.
And in the spirit though of it being even tangentially related to that, like it feels like, like for Brolin's character, like, being ex-military, whatever, like there's this idea that like kids in a school that's supposed to be safe,
Right.
and they're just gone, which I can imagine is the exact same feeling that people who have lost their kids in a school shooting felt like. They were there. I don't have to worry about them. And here they're in a safe space, and even there I can't protect them. And so, you know what I mean? Like in a weird way.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's a movie that's about school shootings, but it's not. Like
Yeah,
it's not
really
about
about the emotions that come from it, not about the act of killing kids. You know, like
and I think that I don't think the gun fits cleanly, but I think if your idea is to provoke conversation about this thing while also making a movie not directly about that thing, is frankly probably one of the smarter approaches to get people to talk about, aren't school shootings crazy?
Well, and it's kind of titillating in the fact that it's like, you know, all the trailers and previews and everything kind of allude to this idea of mass shootings. I think that's only just natural for our minds to go there.
Right.
Just by the way it's presented. I think that it's doing a lot of interesting things in discussing like what we as a society think is dangerous, what we think are the threats, and then completely turning that on its head. And what I mean by that is in the case of like school shootings and everything, like, you know, people are scared of schools, they're scared of guns, they're scared of outsiders, you know, things like that, which are very valid and real. But what it also explores is when the danger is inside your own home, when it is your own family member, when it isn't just some, you know, because it's like you have this kid who all of the other classmates disappeared but him, where in a school shooting, that would be all of the kids died, maybe except for him. Or, you know, then it turns out, well, he didn't escape the danger. He's actually even facing it more
Daily.
head on than all the other kids. And there is no escape for him because it's in his home. It's his family member. He has no power. So it's like, on one hand, it's exploring this issue of like all of the things that society fears, but we're not giving any attention to how many kids are actually going through danger and trauma and abuse and like all of these things right inside their own homes. And no one knows about it. No one, because everyone's over here worried about the missing kids.
Yeah.
Right.
The school shootings, all of that, but we're not examining
the root issue
of
the problem.
So I felt like that was just really interesting. So it's like bringing it back to the AR-15 imagery, it's kind of like he's like dangling this over your head and be like, haha, you thought this was going to be the issue. And it's like not at all. AR-15s have no, they pose no danger.
The gun is not the issue.
It is not an issue at all in the story.
What you're saying, Paris, is that the gun in the sky is actually brilliant.
That's what I'm with you. I think he's putting it there because he wants you to think about it.
Yeah.
Like you're saying. And then, you know.
Who gets shot in the movie?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of, you know, alluded to the thing we need to talk about, which is the reveal that Alex's aunt Gladys. I'm still not convinced that's actually his aunt.
I'm not convinced it's his aunt either.
No, like this
is a witch pulling the strings behind the disappearance. I think Paris did a really incredible job, sort of, I think, summarizing the themes and ideas, sort of powering the supernatural face of the witch. I mean, this worked for me really well. For most of the reasons you posed, Paris, because it's like, this is a thing that is a family. It's friendly. You welcome it in. And then it turns into, and this is where the movie's a little less subtle about its subtext. It's a parasite that feeds off of everyone in the house. Yeah. And when what's in the house is not enough, it needs more. Goes elsewhere. But again, going back to your point, Paris, it's all in the house is really where this sort of evil is manifesting. So anyway, it was huge work for me because I thought it was, on the surface, most interesting reveal? No. But thematically and from a storytelling perspective, I thought it was pretty satisfying. Brett, what was your take on the reveal of Gladys as being the actual threat the whole time?
I thought it was satisfying. I thought, they hint at it right off the bat with a witch on the car. I mean, why would you write witch?
Right. And not the B word.
And not the B word, right. So it's like, okay, well, that could be what's happening, kids being let off, very fairy tale like. I'm not convinced it's his actual aunt, like you said. And I do wish that we would have seen some of how keeping those kids there was like rejuvenating her or giving her power, or we don't really ever see any
It's not
effects
really
on
clear.
it.
That was the thing. I was like, I don't think we needed hardly anything, but I felt like it was missed, that connective tissue, whatever that was. Even though it's a line, it's a shot, but there needed to be something to connect that, because I don't think that's obvious for every viewer. That's why
clearly she used these people, these specific kids for an intended purpose.
Yeah.
It's just, and it's not very clear.
I mean, like,
in what way they're being employed for her.
I mean, for me, the read is that she's I mean, you guys ever watch What We Do in the Shadows, the TV show? She's a soul vampire. Like, she's literally just, I need energy,
I
feast
literally
off him.
thought of Hocus Pocus, like sucking the souls out of the kids' lives to get youthful.
It's like a slow process, right? So the kids are like, she's like, I thought the parents were going to be enough, and they're not. So I need more fuel. A bunch of kids, yeah, sure. And then you just keep them in the basement. Yeah. And they're all zombies,
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. That I also noticed that was a big thing, because I don't think that I've talked to a couple people, and I don't think that was actually clear enough.
Yeah, some kind of physical manifestation, or maybe her little tree grows another branch or something interesting.
I really loved the reveal of Gladys, mainly because I love that character actress Amy Madigan. If you watched Uncle Buck,
Shanice,
yes, Uncle Buck, or
Field of Dreams, man,
or even Gone Baby Gone. You know, she's also in that, which I'm only recently found. I don't know which character she plays, but there's a weird tie in there thematically. But in general, though, like, I remember her for those two films, and so I just loved seeing her get a weird. Like, you know, she's really going for it, and I just, like, I love the makeup design. It's very jarring and off-putting, because, like, her first introduction, just the vivid reds, like, the first time, like, the lady's bringing her to the teacher, you know, and she's like, your 2 o'clock's here, and then you just see her red, like, silhouette kind of go through the, you know, past by the glass, and she comes in, she has the jarring makeup and the weird placed wig, and her perkiness, and everything. I was just like, it's just fun to see an actress that you've seen really playing pretty straight characters, you know, like given like something so, you know what I mean, like just hammy and fun and meaty, you know, at this particular time. So I liked it for that reason, just seeing that actress get to do something cool. But also, if you frame this as a fairy tale kind of thing, because I couldn't decide the first time I saw it, I didn't like the opening. I liked the kids running through I didn't like the narration.
Right.
Because I was saying to myself, I was like, this would be more effective if it just happened. You know what I mean? Like if you know, it's 2:17, you just see a kid get up, you see the other kid get up, and they all just leave, and then we don't know what the hell. You know what I mean? I don't need someone to explain to me that at 2:17, all these kids came here and all the townspeople, like, we get that. We can find that out as we meet all these people. I didn't need the narration. But if I frame it in the mindset that this is like a grim fairy tale that even includes a witch character.
Stop jumping ahead my notes, Laron.
I'm so sorry. Yes. Then that works. Then it works in that mindset. If you reframe it as that kind of fantastical sort of thing, then we're not in reality, even though they're depicting things that affect people in reality, if that makes sense. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that was exactly where I wanted to go with this, because I think if this is where I think a lot of another it works for you or it doesn't comes from. Because it is framed like a fairy tale. Once upon a time, this thing happened, and here's all the players, and here's what happened, and then we watch the movie, and then it's like, and it's not they lived happily ever after, because that's sort of like a more modern invention, but it's like, and this is where it happened. The kids, Alex went to go live with a different aunt who was happier, but also his parents certainly weren't around, and also these kids were kind of zombies eventually. Some of them started talking again, and that's the end. Yeah. You know, it's just, but it does kind of give the film a little bit of the framing. For me, is it cracks the door open for the mysticism to work a lot more effectively.
I agree.
And also when you find out that the what behind it is a witch, you're like, oh, okay, this actually kind of tracks.
Yeah.
So yeah, it feels more like an actual fairy tale set in 2025 suburban America, and I just think when you put that up against. If you're watching it that way, that's one thing. If you're watching it as a, mystery, suspense, thriller, horror, you're like, what the hell? This is such a cop-out.
Yeah. If you're wanting prisoners, specifically prisoners, then it's not that. You know what I mean? Like if you're able to accept the jumping around, oscillating between genres, then yeah, it's fun. It's fun to play with those. Yeah.
Yeah. No. I think that's that for me. That's one of the more interesting things the film does, sort of recontextualizing what could have been just a more conventional, like, again, mystery thriller in the context of a fairy tale. Something like Del Toro probably would have done for some of his stuff, for example. I don't know. Paris, I know you said you weren't super crazy about the reveal of Aunt Gladys as the witch. Was there anything else you want to add about that?
Well, I'm of like two minds here of like, I like the character of Gladys. I think because what y'all were mentioning earlier is whether or not that's really his aunt. And I mean, I do think it is his aunt. I think that there are some really interesting things going on with that character design, though. And like when you first see her, she's so alarming, and you're just like, what in the actual hell is wrong with this person? Like, this is an alien, you know? And then I think that it's very interesting because you're like, okay, I'm sorry, but how could you ever be okay with like letting that person into your home? Even
Exactly.
if that is a relative, like how could you? You know, I guess we don't get all the context for like why she's coming to visit or like, you know, things like that. But what I liked about that though is it to me was kind of Cregger's way of examining how we let family get away with a lot just because they're family. And
I think he even says that, like, family is important in that. One of the characters says it, like, why are we having her over
It's
here?
his dad.
It's like, oh,
Yeah.
we're supposed to do this, and it's like it's just a thing that we're supposed to accept. But
yeah, that's a good point. So it's like I think there's an illusion of like, okay, yeah, if this were anybody else, not a blood relative, yeah, this person would not. You know, I'd stay away from them. I probably wouldn't have them in my home around my children and things like that. But because she's a relative,
And she's probably
it's okay.
And she's basically on her deathbed, you know.
Right. Like,
appearing.
sure. Like, and we don't get all the context of like what her reason was or like why they're feeling the need to take her in or anything like that. I don't think that's really explained. But I thought that was a smart way of really putting that in a visual sense of like, there are some really crappy people who can be part of your family, and like people let their family get away with like the weirdest, most out of pocket, just like crazy stuff just because they're family. And I thought that was an interesting, like the way that they designed her character and like, because then you're like even gaslighting yourself because you're just like, okay, well, maybe she's not that bad. Like, how could she be the one responsible for this? Like, you know, and like throughout the movie, you're just like, and then of course it becomes clear eventually, but it was a very interesting way of exploring those, like what you're willing to put up with. Because they're your family. Right, or not question. Right, because even when Gladys goes to the school and talks to, I think his name is Marcus, and we get some pushback of like, oh, I need to talk to the parents, you're not a guardian, things like that. But he doesn't push back nearly enough. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but if you would think that, like, if this person is coming to you...
Yeah.
And the parent, like, you would just be more concerned and more weirded out. And, like, I mean...
Too many red flags on that one.
Too many red flags to ignore. And he just kind of is like, oh, well, I need to... You know, and I know he does, like, go to the home and, like, try to talk to the parents and stuff like that. But I felt like what I was reading from Cregger's direction in those scenes is... like how people can sense that something's off. People can know that there's something wrong about this situation or this person or what have you, but they just don't do anything about it. They just normalize a lot. And I don't know. I don't even know if that was his intention or if that's just what I'm getting out of it. But I thought it was interesting. And so while I think that I'm also of two minds of like, I like that it's the witchcraft being like the reason for it is not super elaborated on. It's not super explained. We don't have to know her backstory of how she became a witch and like we don't get her POV. That's a POV we don't get.
Yeah.
We don't need all that. I like that. However, on the other hand, I'm like, how many movies like are trying to like make these kind of cop out decisions of, oh, it's a cult or oh, it's a witch or it's like, so it's like, I'm not bothered by the fact that it is those things.
But that is the explanation for.
Yeah, and I don't even need it to be explained. But it's like, it's just a cop out. Like, so it's like, with a movie that goes so much into all the details and putting the pieces together and like really bringing everything together at the end, like it feels like, okay, that's just like how we're going to explain it. And that's going to be that. And like, I like that most of the time, but I felt bitter because I was like, well, you spent so much of the movie trying to get me to put all these puzzle pieces together and figure out what's going on. And then that's just there.
The threat's hiding in plain sight.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Because one thing it does, and I think also this is another thing I was sensing from some people I were talking to earlier today that did not like the film. They couldn't buy that people wouldn't catch on to the kid being, or the aunt being creepy sooner.
Yeah.
Or the kid being, you know, it's like no one really talked to him. I'm like, well, and that is kind of part of the once upon a time. You kind of gloss over it, and they kind of come back to it at the end where they explain why no one took a closer look. And I personally buy it, especially I think with, you know, I think some of what you were saying, Paris, and some of what you were saying, Laron, like the idea that this is sort of representing like trauma that's like, with, you know, sort of like within the house. I mean, how many people who have abusive households where it's like, oh, we're going to fix everything up when the guests come over. Oh, we're all happy. Everything's fine. And then the second potential person who get onto it is gone. You're like, all right, now we're back to the bad behavior, you know?
Yeah.
So when I read it that way, it works for me. But I can also see just like on the surface, you're like, you're telling me no one dug deeper? And I don't know that people would dig deeper. That's where I'm like, it just works or it doesn't. Whereas at this one, it works for me. Yeah. He did not know the ending of this story. He literally was vibe writing. He's like, I just was coping with the thing and started writing.
He said about, maybe halfway through, he finally got an idea for where he wanted to go with it. But he said,
yeah,
okay, I finally have an answer for where we're going. But as he was going along, he was like, I did not come to that conclusion. It was like, I'm just going to write until it comes to me. Mm-hmm. And I found that an interesting writing structure. Like, I feel like that's crazy. That's like,
it's how Stephen King writes, by the way.
That's psychopathic behavior for me. Like, I have to know where I'm going before I'm a writer who goes to the end and traces backward. But there's no wrong approach to it. But it's just, for me to go in blindly writing and not know where I'm going is scary to me.
I'm honestly so here for that approach. Like, I'm so here for that. Like, I love that. I'm not a person who needs a reason, or I don't need to know why. Not everything has to have meaning. I am very anti that ideology. But I feel like ultimately for me, I just left empty-handed. Yeah. It just didn't really give me anything.
Sure.
It didn't impact me or make me feel anything, or it just left me kind of with nothing. I mean, sure, like, I did enjoy it. I don't want to say that, but I was entertained, but not really much else. Like, it was just very empty for me. Like, and like, again, I don't think that movies need to say something. Like, I don't at all ever believe that. But it's nice when they do, I guess. And for this one, it's just like, if I'm really highly entertained and enjoying a movie and just loving it, nothing else really matters. Or if like a movie is saying something that really grabs me, makes me feel something, or maybe I don't even enjoy it that much, like that influences me. But for this, it was I guess really what it boils down to is I was mildly entertained. And it just didn't make me feel anything. And so I feel like if both of those pieces are missing, then that's
whole doesn't come
right.
together.
Yeah.
Sure.
There's nothing for me to really grab onto because I'm like, yeah, I can sit here and talk about how I appreciated his directorial approach. I appreciated, different aspects of the film, but as a whole, it really just to me is very meaningless.
Yeah. Like I said, I can't argue with you because I made the same argument almost literally a year ago. But for some reason, this one worked for me. I think, again, we talked about earlier, the catharsis, the execution. That brings us to the actual ending. And we're talking about Alex being able to sort of like take down his, abuser in this case, turning the witchcraft against her. He was sitting, he was watching her do this awful thing to his parents, other people. And then he's like, I guess I can figure out how to do this. So he then turns her witchcraft against her by sicking the army of children on her. And what a chase sequence. Also so funny. So deeply funny.
Howling laughter in the theater. I was like, okay, this is funny. I'm not just like,
Oh, yeah.
I'm not just a
Because it
special
keeps going on. Like, that's
it's
the thing.
longest
It
sequence.
keeps going. Like, every time you think he does this twice in that last sequence. The first sequence is when the strung out drug addict just keeps getting up.
Yes.
That was hilarious. And then he does it, like, I can't believe it was so funny done twice because he does it immediately again with the kids. Every time you think the chase is over, nope, here's another house or another yard or something.
The scope of that whole sequence is pretty great.
Yeah.
And really everything that's happening in that whole sequence, even before the kids are added into it, just the shenanigans within the home with the cop and the parents upstairs and the peeler and there's so many things happening before we even get to like the crux of the biscuit there with all of those kids being weaponized to take down Gladys was just, for me, if Sinners didn't exist, I would be like, that scene is definitely up there with scene of the year for me.
Yeah.
But Sinners has obviously
Sinners has
such a bigger swath of a moment in that particular movie. But those two sequences are pretty close.
It's still one of the top of the year.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Just sequences in any particular movie. Yeah.
Brett, what'd you think of the ending?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it definitely worked for me. I think, just the kids pouring through the windows of people in their house. That's just hilarious. And it just kept going, as you said. And then it was very gruesome in a way that was actually funny. It was pretty disturbingly gruesome, but I can appreciate that every time.
Yeah. Just literally kids tearing her limb from limb.
Yeah.
Dismembering her jaw to head to arm to, it's just insane. Blood spraying everywhere. Crazy.
And it looked really great. Like all of the effects, a lot of them looked practical.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they had actual kids running through these houses, but it looked like it, and that was pretty ballsy.
Yeah.
Reminded me, although it was live action and set in the context of a horror, so I think it was a lot funnier, but it did remind me of that scene in the Across the Spider-Verse where you just see that chase where it just keeps going and going and they're busting through people's houses and stuff. Anyway, it's just great motif. And visually, just again, the way it was shot and edited here was chef's
And
kiss.
daytime.
In the daytime,
That was great.
Yeah. Paris, did this sequence at all, I mean, not necessarily redeem the movie, did it leave you walking away feeling at least a little more satisfied? At least viscerally?
No, I mean, because there was at some point during the movie when we had seen her do her witchcraft several times, I was like, okay, well, we know how it works. The kid knows how it works. So in a way, I didn't predict that was how it was going to go down exactly, but I did predict that he would be doing
something with
the
it.
witchcraft in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like, yeah, I loved the hell out of that. I mean, watching it was, like I said, super entertaining. Like it was hilarious and creepy, and the cinematography was amazing. I mean, highly enjoyable ending by all means. And then just how bloody it was and just gross, and like I loved it. But it just, I don't know. It just wasn't enough, I guess, to make up for the other gripes I had about it, you know? And I also, I'm so open-minded when it comes to what horror is, and it doesn't have to be like genre horror. It can be art house horror. It can be whatever. I love all sorts of different types of horror. But like, I really just wanted more of a horror movie out of this movie, and I felt like the ending was like his attempt at like making it a horror movie. Because like there are horrifying things that happen. There are horror elements, but really like not a lot of people die. There's not a lot of scary moments. It's more just like what the hell kind of moments. And like that part felt like that was the only thing that really made it a horror movie was that.
That sequence.
Yeah.
That finale.
Yeah. And so, you know, and then the second would be like the whole thing with Marcus, like, because
In the convenience store.
that is a monster
Oh, yeah.
design right
Yeah.
there.
His eyes.
The
Yeah,
Oh, my
I mean,
gosh.
that's straight out of like a J horror, you
Yeah.
know?
Wearing a Mickey Mouse t-shirt? I mean, come on.
Yeah, so I felt like those two moments were really the horror moments for me. And I don't know, I just felt like I there wasn't enough of that for me. But I mean, yeah, no, loved the ending. I loved it. And I loved the whole thing with Marcus too. I mean, like those were really, I was just like, okay, this is the horror, you know.
I really hope that it goes viral this Halloween. Kids
Oh,
running
yeah,
around
yes,
with the little
yes.
arm stance. Yeah.
I was
Gotta
cracking
get the eye.
up.
I gotta get the eye thing. How do you get the bug eye thing? Like, how is that?
There's gotta be contacts out there for that.
Surely.
Yeah.
I was cracking up at the running from the very beginning.
Yeah, me
it was.
too.
We only very briefly touched on the music in this film. I love the music in this film. Like it adds like such a different layer to it. But like when we were talking about like that specific song with all the kids running, and it's very like free in a way, like I was just laughing so hard because it's just like if you had a horde of kids running at you like that in real life, you would be scared, okay? I'm
It's
not
not
saying it's
normal.
not
No.
scary, but like the way that it is depicted is just absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
And it
absurd.
also, yes, it's absurd. And I also couldn't help but think of like Attack on Titan.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there was just I could take it seriously, but I couldn't help but laugh. And so
I think that's part of what makes it like. That's what I'm saying. There's like a weird balance between comedy and horror
Yeah.
because it is funny. It is
Yes.
hilarious. Actually,
and
it's
purposefully
goofy.
so.
Yes, but it's
Yeah.
also like when you put it in the context of kids running at you, it's like you don't want to be that guy.
No.
That's
Oh
terrifying.
yeah, no.
and
it's,
also
it's yes.
and it's also like there's this weird thing as a 30-something that doesn't have kids. You're like kids are kind of scary, especially in like large groups. Like
Even if you have kids can be scary.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I will say, just as a small counterpoint, I did find a lot of elements in the movie scary that I didn't expect to. I love horror. One of the things in horror movies that generally does not work for me is a scene where people are like slowly creeping around a house and it's quiet and they're looking for something, where the camera's just slowly moving through a space. Those really bore me a lot of times. But Cregger, I feel like, is a master of making normal, banal spaces really weird and off-putting and just really tense. Like when the camera's with Julia Garner in her bedroom, you know, or when the camera's just in the woods and you're just seeing this space, but you feel really tense and uncomfortable.
Makes everything feel really small.
Yeah.
You know?
I'll tell you, the two well-executed jump scares with Gladys before we meet Gladys did work for me pretty well, because like on the ceiling one and then the dream sequence with Archer, Josh Brolin's character, because you think it's going to be the kid, like you see the kid there and the kid's going to do something weird, but you get to see the kid's face and he sits there slowly kind of you know zoned out and everything, but then there's this flicker of light, like the kid gets just a little bit darker, you could still see the silhouette of his face, it's still there, a flicker of light, and then there's this jarring like look of her.
I thought they were effective scares.
Those were very effective, like, but they're sparse.
No, it's definitely not. Like I said, it's not a scare a minute movie.
It's like you maybe get one tiny like moment in each chapter, but I agree. It culminates to really what Paris is saying there in that last stretch where between Marcus's chapter and then the kid's
And
chapter.
seeing the zombie head bodies in the house is kind of creepy. There's a lot of creepy stuff.
Yeah, creepy
Yeah.
stuff, like tonally creepy, but yeah, not scary necessarily.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's like I wasn't really. I'm trying to think of moments where I was scared during the film, and I'm having trouble putting my finger on one. The first one that comes to mind though, which I say it's funny because it's like the scariest moments are kind of like the funniest moments too.
Yeah, sometimes at the same
Like,
time. Yeah,
When that woman comes out of the house,
yeah.
Yeah, that was so good.
I
was like,
was
that was scary.
legitimately scared,
That was
but
scary,
also
yeah.
Like
it
laughing.
was so funny.
Yeah, when she
because
stops.
It's because she's
it's just like, what is going on?
It's the well, it was the way she was walking.
Yes.
Right,
It's
well,
again,
yes.
it's
Yes.
where it's like that is scary because it's unusual, but
Yes.
also it's kind of funny because it's so
Yes.
cartoonish.
Right.
It's
But-
random as hell.
But
Yeah.
okay, I will say I did get a little like scary, and the moment was when she walks away and then gets in the back seat, and you don't know what she's gonna do. You're like,
Yeah.
holy
The
shit!
off-
Yes,
the
that
off-camera
whole
door opening.
sequence, I feel like for me was definitely a scary part of the movie, if not like the scariest. I mean, it's the first one that came to mind,
Yeah.
Sure.
so I think it definitely was probably the earliest I felt like legitimately scared.
Or
But
at least unsettled. Like
yeah, it's just so unsettling, but also just funny and bizarre and.
Yeah, I think our theater went from laughing at that scene to literally gasping.
But,
when she
but I
opens the
think
door.
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
works really well for that scene is it is all one long shot.
Yeah.
Like there's
Mhm.
nothing you're cutting to. There's nothing, it's just all that one straight shot. I would say too, it's also just like, how did she get in the car? Because it's like you're telling me
she just left her car
it
unlocked.
was just like you were out there
She didn't hear it?
and I say that
I mean,
too
she
because
was
there
drinking.
there
Yeah.
was that
That's fair.
specific point where someone walks past her and she
Yeah.
kind of like is like, oh, okay. So it's like, I don't know, it was just a weird moment,
Sure.
nitpick, but it was, I think the way that made that work was the way it was filmed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which again, I think is one of the strong suits of the movie. The long takes.
Mhm.
We get to see a couple of different ones inside the convenience or the liquor store that I thought was pretty effective. Also, kind of like some fake outs, where you're thinking, oh, she's being chased. Actually, she's being chased by the wife of the man she slept with.
Yeah.
Just stuff like that was really clever.
Yeah.
Well, guys, got a lot. We've talked a lot about this movie. Frankly, there's probably more we could say. Really, I think there's a treasure trove here of ideas. I do want to wrap up by talking briefly about Zach Cregger, what he does next. Now, we've already mentioned this movie. His next movie is going to be Resident Evil, and it's interesting because by all metrics of success, this movie is a massive success. It made tons of money. It got an A- cinema score, which, by the way,
It's hard to do.
hard to do specifically for horror films.
Yeah.
It's very rare that horror films get even above like a B. Even like horror movies you would think everyone loves. Not the case. And Rotten Tomatoes, critics loved it. So it seems like he's kind of about to get a blank check. I mean, he kind of got a blank check with this one, frankly. He's probably going to get a bigger one for his next project after Resident Evil, because he says he's going to go back to original after he does Resident Evil. But I do have to ask the question. I mean, what do you think about this guy? Two huge, like, just sort of originals out the gate, and he's like, what next? Resident Evil. I mean, what do you think? What do you think of that?
I just feel like Resident Evil is just long overdue for a new rebranding of that. Like, we've done it with so many things. This is something that I also am someone who has a guilty pleasure of all those movies without really being able to discern anything beyond the first three. Like, I still watch them and enjoy them for what they are.
Man, this is going to inspire a Resident Evil rewatch. I'm way overdue.
For what they are, I like them. They're fun, and like I said, like they're, it's something like, I don't know if it's like high art or cinema. It doesn't have to be, they're still enjoyable, but I feel like a proper like let's adapt this faithfully and make it like, give it the sensation that you get when watching or playing these games. That I'm very curious to see if that is in fact what he's going to be doing with it. So I'm curious to see his take on it. And as we've mentioned before, like, I just think he has the right tone, because he did this with both of these, with Barbarian and this, where he's able to mix that camp, silly, what the fuck is going on with like moments that are genuinely unsettling, but also like wickedly hilarious.
I cannot articulate how just yes,
it's a strange sensation.
But that is Resident Evil.
Yeah,
and that's like so hard to pull off.
Sure,
and it works. It's I wouldn't say easier, but it makes a little more sense in a video game because you're playing the moments.
Sure,
but in a movie, that I feel like it's so harder to land the balance right there.
Right, and he's done that without any of that. So perhaps just adding just some of the things you know about the story. And I think it'll probably land really well with fans, and I hope so. Him being a fan really is encouraging to know that, you know, like, so I'm excited to see that. When I heard his name was on it, even before Weapons, I was like, Barbarians goes pretty hard. So I'd be happy. And then we saw Weapons, and I'm like, this is our guy. This is our guy, you know. So,
what do you think, Brett?
Oh, super stoked. Big Resident Evil fan. Yeah, I even watched the Netflix show with my dude Lance Reddick.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Yeah, but I even enjoyed that. So. Yeah, I'm really excited for someone who actually has a good grasp of these things to take on the source material and bring us something, hopefully, that lives up to it and maybe elevates it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love Resident Evil, the games. I mean, I eat that stuff up like catnip. I've definitely watched all the movies. I don't think I didn't see Return to Raccoon City, the most recent reboot.
I didn't see that either.
No one.
That was pretty bad.
I heard it was bad. No one saw it. So we're going to pretend that didn't happen probably. But I've played all the game. Well, that's strong. All the mainline games, because there are a lot of spinoffs.
Okay.
And there's so much fun. The the ride, the thrill ride aspect, the mystery aspect, the likable, cheesy characters, like it's all there. And Cregger feels uniquely qualified to tackle that. Paris, you mentioned you were the one who recommended the games earlier. I mean, what's your take here?
I have differing opinions on it because I love that we are living in a time where we are getting original horror movies like Barbarian and Weapons in theaters. Like, so much of what I appreciate about it is that it's just these movies are being made and people are going to watch them. They're successful. Like, I'll take that over IP stuff any day.
Oh, sure.
You know, like, just that's a very valuable thing to me. However, I feel like, you know, as a fan of Resident Evil and also as an advocate for directors to be able to tell the stories they want to tell and do the things they want to do, if that's where his heart is taking him, then I'm here for it. I mean, I'm excited for it. I just hope that, you know, it doesn't
dull his blade
or derail his career.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You know, so
like
I'm excited, but I'm also wary because I'm like, I hope that just, you know, I hope he goes and does what he wants to do. Whatever makes him happy, that's great. I hope that he doesn't lose this spark of originality, though, because, like, there's, like, two paths here where he goes and makes Resident Evil and then goes back to making original stuff, or he makes 10 Resident Evil movies.
Exactly.
You don't want him to be the next David Yates who feels like he's being held hostage by Warner Brothers to keep making Harry Potter movies for all eternity.
Everybody's not Ryan Coogler, you know? Or you jump to Marvel and then say, actually, I'm going to make one of the best movies of the last 10 years, you know, like, right after that, another original story. But you're right. Yeah, because if he could get in that rabbit hole of just like addicted to the thrill of having such a high profile, I hope he
it'll
stays true to this.
It'll probably make way. I mean, both of his first two movies are making great money, but like you put Resident Evil on it, he's probably going to make some fat paychecks.
Yeah, and there's I'm a video game lover, and we have a lot of good, you know, stuff out there, but most of your video game adaptations and movies are not good. I mean, I didn't see the Until Dawn movie.
It's not good. It's very not good.
That's literally what everybody says. And so it's like, I'm always a fan of when we can take video games and really make something cool out of it. And there's not a lot of directors I would say I would even see doing that.
Yeah.
But he makes sense. Like, it makes sense to me that he would make Resident Evil. Like, so, usually when I hear someone's trying to make a video game adaptation, I'm very hesitant because I'm just like, oh, here we go again. Like, quit trying to make movies out of video games. Like, it's just not going to work. But sometimes it does. And so I'm excited.
I feel like the bar for video game movies is increasing incrementally as a lot of the people who grew up with the material who are also skilled cinematic storytellers are like, wait, okay.
Yeah.
I
think The Last of Us is probably one of the better examples of
but I
longer
don't
form.
So you're not gonna help me say that though.
That's a complicated conversation.
I wouldn't give that one credit for that. A, it's TV, but also B, like the games already did the work.
Sure.
So
I have a lot of opinions and I can't even get started on that.
None of them involve Bella Ramsey, right?
Oh, Bella Ramsey's great.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
because
Bella
I hate
Ramsey's
the internet
great.
hate for
Oh,
her.
I'm a big Bella Ramsey fan
Okay,
for sure.
okay.
It's just there's a lot of problems with, particularly the second
season.
Yeah.
Okay.
and that second game is also quite controversial in certain
But
circles.
I do think that you're right when you're saying like the bar is getting raised higher because like whereas before I think it was people using the video games and their titles as a cash grab as being like, oh, this will make money. Now people who actually played video games and like grew up in that era like of that being a hobby of theirs are starting to take different approaches, perhaps, than we've seen before. So,
I mean, Detective Pikachu was great. I don't care what anyone
Yeah.
says.
I mean,
enjoyed that one.
I second that.
I mean, great's a strong word, but for what it is, it's pretty
It's
good.
great for what
It's
it
pretty
is.
fun. Yeah. I was looking to see if there's any better ones. There are still a lot of cash grabs, but I do think that The Last of Us is on the better side if you're going to bring in television adaptations. But I also, like Pear said, there's a whole other.
Yeah. Well, I
Conversation.
haven't played the game, so I can't speak to it.
I know that I will say the first season it's pretty easy is not the right word, but the heavy lifting has all already been done in the first game. I actually think there's opportunity in the second game adaptation. They aren't taking those opportunities. So different podcast. Anyway, I'm excited. I think Cregger wanted to make the movie. I get the sense that he's the one who pitched it.
Yeah. That's what I get too.
Based on how
I
he's
haven't
talking
done
about
that
it.
research, but I mean, it's like everybody has their things that if they were handed money to make it, like I'm sure there's some weird stuff. The Barney movie that is supposed to be coming out.
David Kaluuya or Daniel Kaluuya.
Like that.
Yeah.
What the hell is that?
That's just like something that how do you say her name?
Iowa Debris.
She said, like, that's just something I've been wanting to make for a long time, like a movie about Barney. And it's like one of those things where you're like, okay, of all the things you could make, that's what you want to make.
So whatever it is, I'm curious.
Yeah, it's like, I want to see that. So if Resident Evil is his thing where it's like, I want to make this, then I'm here for it,
I also wonder if this is a good opportunity for him to like experiment with bigger budget, nicer toys, for lack of a better term, and maybe hone the craft a little bit to bring back to his originals, maybe.
Because he's increasing his budget at each production, so it seems like okay, you can do it mid-budget, you can do it.
You can do low budget, mid-budget,
and now we're gonna give you a big budget. What do you do with this? Can you do anything?
And then he's gonna do the next Rian Johnson. You get my next 3 scripts for $90 billion, and then Netflix buys it, and we can't see it in theaters. Thanks, Netflix. All right, closing thought. Any Brett? Because you were mentioning, you had some ideas. Like, what do you want to see Cregger do? Removing Resident Evil from the table. What do you want to see him do next?
Yeah, as I said earlier, I think definitely something crimey. I'm a big fan of good crime movies, bad people doing bad things. Even like a crime horror movie, which I don't know if we've really seen before. Would be pretty cool. I think the same thing about Parker.
Best Till Dawn.
Abigail started as one.
True.
It's like they're going to do the...
See, it's always a genre swap because I'm thinking from Dusk Till Dawn.
Right.
And you could almost even say Sinners starts as kind of a crime drama.
True.
And then,
True.
but then it's... Whoop. Nope,
You mean
now
like a proper crime,
A proper crime
thriller with horror elements.
With horror elements would be great. And I think the same thing about Parker Finn after seeing the opening of Smile 2, which was like a little mini crime movie.
So good.
Yeah.
Kyle Gallner.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. Also in Strange Darling, he's He can't play
Dude,
a nice guy.
That's
I don't
one of
know
my
if he-
favorite movies of last year.
Played the Flash on Smallville. Yeah. Back in the day. Paris, what do you want to see Cregger do next, removing Resident Evil from the table?
I don't know. I'm here for whatever he makes. I can't say that I really have that big of an opinion on it. I'm just like, I
More
feel
original
like,
stuff.
yeah, more original stuff. I'm here for the Resident Evil thing. I feel like he is someone who is like very different in his approach, which I compared him to like Jordan Peele and Ari Aster, and like the ones who are like approaching horror in a fresh, new kind of, for lack of a better word, highbrow kind of approach.
Elevated horror.
Yeah, elevated horror, like,
Which we don't really like that word.
right.
just
Even though I
listeners, by the
hate
way.
that,
Yeah.
but like, you know what I'm referring to when I'm
Right.
talking about that is that kind of wave that we're seeing. I feel like he is doing things that no one else is really doing. And so he's either going to keep doing that or he's going to like take a completely different direction. And I'm kind of like here for whatever, because I do like his movies. I enjoy them. I can't say they're like my favorites or anything like that. But I'm very interested in him as a director. I think he's very interesting and he's doing new things. And so I'm always like super into that.
Yeah. New stuff. LeBron Chapman.
Yeah, I personally would like another horror film, another original horror film. But I'm definitely open to the idea of him doing like a heist or, like you mentioned, kind of a crime thriller in that way, with maybe a similar, maybe upending of your expectations sort
Right.
of thing. Not necessarily in an episodic structure like what he's done here, but definitely maybe it starts as a crime thriller and then it turns into something. Oh shit, what the hell is this? Like just what? Because that seems to be his thing. His thing is like he, and I think he's uniquely kind of skilled at this. Like him and Jordan Peele, I think with their history of doing sketch comedy and having to like do that improvisational, like we're here, we're there, we're going over here, but you're so invested in moment to moment and what they're doing. You feel that with each of his chapters. It's like that first part of Barbarian, that first 30-minute sequence is its own type of movie. And I was totally down for just that movie. And then we're like, oh, it's not even that kind of movie. And now where the hell are we at? And who's Justin Long? And what's this like weird subtext about,
Gentrification.
gentrification and men doing terrible things to women and lying about it and gaslighting. Like, I'm here for this. Like, what is this? Like, so it's just like, yeah, just keeping on your toes and keeping things interesting and fresh. And I think that's what his thing is with storytelling. It's like, I might tell you this ordinary story, but I'm going to tell it to you in the most, like, you know what I mean? Interesting way that's not like, you know what I mean? Like just blasé, like whatever. Like, okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the heist angle would be pretty good. Because the heist genre, I mean, gosh, I mean, it's been much like horror in a lot of ways, has been done to hell, deconstruct every which way. There's an entire episode about Rick and Morty that breaks down beat by beat every single heist movie ever made, and it's great. And I love heist movies, but it'd be kind of cool to see him do like a fresh spin on that. I also really want him to lean more into the comedy. I loved full disclaimer, I haven't watched it in years, so I actually have no idea if the comedy has held up, but I loved Wise Kids You Know in the like early 2010s. Like I still, there's a couple of those sketches I still think about sometimes, whether it's the assassination of Abe Lincoln or there's the one that me and my friends memed to each other in high school before there were memes. It was it's Saturday and the guy runs around with the bow and arrow. Like there's just all sorts of really, even Wise Kids You Know at the time, yes, it was sketch comedy, but kind of like, Key and Peele, it was also like, I've never seen this sketch comedy before. And so I don't necessarily want him to do a pure comedy. I think we're far past that being an option, frankly. But I do think combining that with something like a genre that is very well worn, like a heist thriller, could be promising. That said, if he shows up for more horror or more horror adjacent stuff, I'm in.
Yep.
I just feel like he's already halfway to like heist thriller because it's a mystery thriller. So, we're getting close.
Yeah.
Well, guys, this has been such a fun conversation. Where can people keep up with all the cool things we're all doing online? And Brett, I'll start with you.
Sure. If you want to learn more about the double feature night that I'm a co-host of, go to survivegrindplanet.com. It's a completely free event. You can sign up for the email there, and we do it about 6 times a year, so every 2 months.
And I just went to one this last weekend. It was a double feature of To Live and Die in LA and Miami Blues. And the theme that was hot, sweaty summer. And my interpretation is shitloads of cocaine. Yep. Shitloads of cocaine done by everyone working on those movies in the process of making them. Oh, yeah. So you guys are doing you did a great job pairing thematically. You did a Giallo theme one time. That was fun.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That'll come back.
Aquatic horror. You've done aquatic horror. You've done
I think the only one I've ever completely missed, and I can't remember why. There was like one of those like I was either out of town or something, but you did a double feature for Crawl and Piranha 3D in the same night, and I love both of those movies, and that would have been a great crowd.
It was a blast. The crowd really liked it.
Well, that's Grind Planet. One of 2 great film clubs you can check out here in the Oklahoma City Metro. The other being Film with Paris Burris. Paris, where can people keep up with you and all the stuff you're doing?
Really, I'm just on Instagram. It's just my name, Paris Burris, and then I'm also on Letterboxd, also Paris Burris. I'll also plug when it comes to the type of programming I'm doing nowadays. If you haven't checked out SaveFilmRow.com, we are programming movies and different events, live comedy shows, VHS swaps and media swaps, and we're doing everything from like music stuff there to just all sorts of different things every single day in August. And so if you're not keeping up with that, then you should definitely go check out SaveFilmRow.com and follow Oklahoma Film Exchange on Instagram.
Check them out. You guys are hustling really hard to save the Film Row Theater. Really exciting thing happening. So if you're listening to this, listeners, you have precisely, let's see, this is going to come out on the 13th. So you have precisely, I think, 8 days. Is it 21st? Is that the deadline? 21st? You have 9 days to contribute to the fundraiser Indiegogo campaign to secure one of Oklahoma City's most historic screening rooms, or if not the most historic screening room that we have left in the city.
Yeah, and it's very personal to, I think if any creative, particularly in the arts or particularly in film, who
there's not a filmmaker I don't know personally that has not screened something in that room.
Crossed paths with that. My directorial debut, I hosted my fundraising event there. So definitely a lot of history in that space, and it's very important to the artist here in Oklahoma. So definitely, like if you have time, we would really appreciate people to come out and support that for sure.
Yeah, SaveFilmRow.com, right? SaveFilmRow.com. Yeah. And then if we also have an in-depth podcast conversation we had published a couple weeks ago. You can check out. I'll link that in the show notes with a few of the other members of the Oklahoma Film Exchange crew. Laron Chapman, where can people follow you online?
They can follow me on Letterboxd under my handle black_Cine_man, or they can follow my long form reviews on the Cinematropolis with Real Insights, REEL, with Laron Chapman.
They are some real insights, I have to say. There we go. Of course, listeners can follow me on all the social media channels at C Masters Talk. That's letter C Masters Talk, Letterboxd preferably, but also on the Instagrams. Or, more importantly, you could just go to the cinematropolis.com, check some other podcasts out, some other write-ups from people like Laron Chapman or Daniel Bokemper. Check all that stuff out over at the cinematropolis.com. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. We'll catch you again next time when we're back in 2 weeks with our sort of summer 2025 review and roundup. Until next time.